It all starts in a modern and beautiful establishment. It is quite spacious and popular among people. A small doorbell rings, signaling the arrival of a new visitor. A large dark-haired man can be seen in the doorway. A sword weighs on his back, armor on his body, and the head of a killed monster in his hands. The establishment is full of people, but the hunter heads to an empty bar counter and leaves his weapon near it. He is met by a bartender already familiar to Cao, who pours him a full glass of alcohol and inquires about the man's catch today. The brunette sighs and notes that today there was only a short walk, where he only got the fangs and skin of a fanged wolf. Cao takes a sip of his beer and glances at the screen in another part of the establishment to see if the meeting has started yet. The bartender agrees and also looks at the screen. Like most of the visitors, we see a huge courthouse. There are many people in it, a judge and one defendant. The end of voting and the voting results of all congressmen sitting in the room are announced. A man with glasses reads all the votes from the paper. All 325 votes were in favor. The same man says that the verdict will be passed on today. The president of parliament, Yahello, broadcasts into the microphone that during the war, a lot of evidence was found about Musk committing brutal murders, as well as a large number of other crimes. The sentence was the death penalty, but despite this, the main character sits very calmly and does not show signs of anxiety. The president continues his speech. The parliament decided to strip Musk of all his titles, leaving only the title of hero. The main character still calmly listens to the verdict, expressing absolutely no emotions. The plot again moves to the bar, where one of the visitors begins to defend Musk, because if not for him, then perhaps humanity would have come to an end. The people sitting nearby clearly disagree in their opinion. The credit belongs to all people, including Yahello, who could not be torn away from the battle. But the first man is not going to give in this dispute. Starting to defend the honor of the main character, the dispute begins to flare up. Both visitors start shouting. The dark-haired guy responds to the man's arguments by saying that the main character sent everyone back to the dark times. According to the visitor, Musk is either crazy or wants to return to the time when he was omnipotent, and everyone admired him. The initiator of the dialogue completely drooped. He denies these words. In his opinion, this is absolutely not what the hero wanted. The president of parliament invites Musk to leave the court with the honor of a special hero, because humanity will never forget his contribution to the overthrow of mutants. The main character does not respond in any way to Hee-Yun's proposal, even if these are the only conditions that can be deduced. He opens his eyes and begins to look at the courthouse. The guy sees a huge number of people and does not understand what is happening. Musk is indignant because he died from a sudden attack in the city at night. The hero's face finally expresses not only indifference, now sadness is also visible on it. Isn't this the place where his partners betrayed him? It seems that now his whole life is flying before his eyes. Suddenly, a black screen appears in front of the main character's face, announcing the completion of the mission to help humanity create a new national alliance. The main character is surprised that he will be reborn, but now he must choose whether to follow the path of a hero or a monster. This time Musk understands that he will choose the path of the monster. The hero finally smiled. According to Hee-Young, the guy's silence means dissatisfaction with the verdict. This angers the president. He admits that the main character has no equal in this world, but he had no feelings or wisdom for politics, which led to his isolation from many people. He also believes that this trial will completely expel Musk from everywhere, and he will become just a harmless statue for everyone. Despite the expectations of the court members, the hero says that he is protesting. The dark-haired guy from the bar is jubilant. It seems to him that Musk's words indicate that he simply does not want to lose his power. He is filled with anger and abruptly puts down his beer mug, shouting that such a person deserves a noose around his neck for his crimes. Musk looks straight into the camera and boldly talks about giving up the title of a special hero. This statement shocked not only the audience, but also Hee-Yun, who clearly did not expect such an answer. The guy gets up from his chair and still confidently repeats his words that he refuses the title of a special hero. He also tells everyone that he is tired of being a hero. The president finally breaks down. He starts shouting because he doesn't understand how he can express dissatisfaction with Musk's pitiful situation. Musk begins to leave, answering that there is not even a trace of dissatisfaction. He is absolutely calm. Hee-Yun's expectations were defeated because the main character does not want to continue helping people as a nameless hero, as the president expected. He screams at Musk with all his might, because he doesn't dare leave like that. The guy looked at him and just asked if there was anything else. The president responds quite aggressively that in this case, Musk should get rid of all his power. Meanwhile, one of the bar visitors does not understand what was meant, while the other does not know how one cannot understand such basic things. The answer to the question is quite simple. Hee-Yun wants to completely get rid of Musk's power. A pretty girl with her hair in a ponytail inquires about the rank of the main character, and learns from the hunter that the hero had the 13th rank, which is 4 levels higher than even the president of parliament. From the dark-haired man, we learn that only Musk has passed above the 10th rank. President He is still angry. He orders the hero to refuse all his help. Musk agrees with this as calmly as possible and raises his hand, in which a large amount of his power has accumulated. The blue clot in his hand is growing larger, which scares the people in the room. The workers are in fear. They are sinking under the pressure of the guy's power. The president begins to resist. Even at rank 9, he is very exhausted. Sweat begins to flow down Hee-Yoon's forehead. The huge flow of energy does not stop, not sparing the people nearby. Musk proposes to return all the power back. Now the column of energy is so powerful and enormous that it has broken through the courthouse, reaching towards the sky. Already shocked by the incident, the city's residents are informed of the appearance of a new royal-class monster, and people are asked to find shelter. The courthouse is destroyed by Musk's energy, and all those who were there died. 10 minutes later, all of Musk's powers finally run out. The president is surprised. He was able to hold out all this time and remained alive. Hee-Yoon's face is touched by a crazy smile, because he realized that now the main character is an ordinary person who should no longer be afraid. The hero lowered his hand and directed his gaze at her, a slight strength still emanating from the mask. He turned around and walked through the ruins towards the exit of the building. As he walks, the main character takes off the white mask that had been on his face all this time. A malicious grin appeared on the president's face in his opinion. Musk would come to an end very soon. The main character almost reaches the exit, but suddenly disappears in the red rays. Hee-Yoon is very amazed, even a little scared. He doesn't understand where Musk has disappeared to. A lonely portal located in a spacious dungeon glowed blue. A team of people consisting of several people comes out of the portal. They came here to fight enemies of the first level and demons of the second. Having learned that huge spiders live in this place, one of the girls jokingly asks another girl named Chiang not to be afraid. The other two team members ask the captain to start quickly. They have already spent all their money and want to earn new ones. They also regret that they will not be able to see the trial of Musk in real time. But one of the girls finds a plus. If some of the people had not stayed to watch the trial, then they would not all have come to this secret place today. The captain glances at his team and says to move forward, postponing conversations until later. The main one offers to work hard and quickly deal with this place, to which the others readily agree. But suddenly they hear sounds from the portal, and it also begins to become brighter. The team is indignant, because no one else should be there. The main character appears from the passage. This time the mask on his face is missing, and his clothes are much more ordinary. Two guys are whispering. It's very stupid to go down into the dungeon without equipment and weapons. Musk looks around. He has already forgotten what the lower-level dungeons look like. Nostalgia washed over him. The last time he was here was when he woke up and became a professional. The hero is pulled out of his thoughts by the captain's question about whether he wants to go through this dungeon. He looks at the guy with mockery, asking if he has a weapon. Musk calmly raises his hand and clenches it into a fist, indicating that it is his weapon. The captain concludes that the main character is a martial artist and pats the guy on the shoulder. Next, the captain asks a question about Musk's rank, thinking that with such confidence, he is high. But the hero calmly answers that only at the first level. This answer did not very pleasantly surprise not only the captain, but also the rest of the team. Grabbing Musk by the forearm, the captain asks if he's joking. The titular character scared the crap out of the man. The hero pulls his hand away and replies that he came here to fight monsters. Two guys from the team laughed at his words according to them. The main character will not be able to kill even the weakest enemy. He should stay in the dungeon until the exit opens again. The mask does not stop this. He only reassures people with the words that he will not get in the way. The captain stands with his back to the hero and asks him not to expect help from them. Now the whole team finally sets off, with the main character standing not far from them. Chiang, walking at the very end, looks back at Mask standing behind her. Upon arrival of all team members, the dark-haired woman tries to destroy the enemy with an explosion. The archer takes aim at another spider and begins to cover the captain. The captain fights with one of the creatures with a sword, while another approaches him from behind. He is very grateful for the help. Luckily, one of the team's guys kills the spider with his spear. Musk calmly stands behind a stone wall and watches what is happening, clenching his hand into a fist. Chiang approaches him, wondering if the captain was too rude to the hero. She asks the guy not to take this to heart, because the man wanted the best. After all, a beginner can easily make mistakes in secret areas. She instructs Musk that if he is not careful, he will die. The hero, with a hint of nostalgia, tells her that compared to the past, today's professionals have become more advanced and careful, which inspires respect. Chiang notes that the main character, although young, speaks like people from the top of the Commonwealth. The girl continues the dialogue and agrees because with Musk's policy, the mortality rate among lower-level professionals has dropped significantly, while the men from the team began to cut up their prey. The girl remembers that she forgot to introduce herself. She hands the hero a rug and says that her name is Yang Chang Chang. She is a second-level healer. The main character shakes her hand and introduces himself in response. He is called Xiao Chu, who has not yet chosen his direction. Chang looks at the hero in surprise, asking him about this. Xiao Chu replies that he is still in thought, also noting to himself that some directions were created by him. Hiller evaluates the main character with his eyes, noting that melee combat is not suitable for him, and also invites him to take a spirit test. Suddenly realizing, she, confused, asks if she's talking a lot, but the main character does not have time to answer her. He suddenly grabs the indignant girl by the hand and pulls her towards him. At this time, a shadow spider appears in the place where Yang stood a second ago. This is immediately noticed by the archer, who shouts about it to everyone in the dungeon. Xiao Chu carefully watches the creature that broke through the stone floor. Then the spider targets the hero and the girl next to him, but the main character quickly intercepts the creature's paw with his hand. He abruptly rips out the creature's limb. Then he sticks it into the body of the prey to kill. Xiao is full of strength, and his eyes glow with blue lights. The spider begins to scream in pain and gradually sink down. Xiao Chu stands opposite the creature, and Yang Changchang holds onto the guy with his hands. The rest of the team members are shocked by the actions of the main character. As if the guy is not from this world, his control over his body is very good. But still, according to one of them, even high-ranking professionals are not capable of this. While the others are indignant, the main character looks contentedly at the result of his labors, and the girl still clings to the guy. Xiao looks at her and asks her to finally let him go because there is no more danger. Chang only now realizes that she has been standing like this all this time and is blushing with embarrassment. She quickly runs away from the main character, covering her face with her hands. But still, Xiao Chu doesn't really care about this. He is glad that by getting points for killing monsters, he will be able to quickly upgrade his skills, like in his previous life. The captain turns to the hero and apologizes to the guy for doubting him. He also thanks Chu for saving young Chang and promises to share the reward with him after completing the mission. The main character rejects this offer. According to him, it was only a friendly gesture. It is quite normal to help others in secret areas. The captain is clearly confused. He only agrees, although he is indignant in his thoughts. Xiao Chu moves away. Meanwhile, the swordsman cuts the body of the dead spider in half with all his might. The man admires his work contentedly, while the team examines the corpses of the remaining creatures. Looking deeper into the cave, the captain notes that there should be a boss ahead. The man repeats the original plan to the others, and reminds them that after this fight, they will be able to return back to the real world. He further recommends that the older girl be prepared to use fire techniques to burn away the cobwebs. Meanwhile, the archer stretches and notes that today they are moving quite quickly. When they leave, maybe they will have time to catch the end of the meeting of the century. The other does not see the point of watching the end, and the mask will be found guilty in any case. The archer is also interested in what the hero looks like without a mask, to which the girl shares a rumor that says that Mask is a woman. This girl's gaze becomes heavier. She shares that she used to support Mask and considered him the salvation of humanity. But after what happened in the city of Tuga, she changed her mind. She is interrupted by Yang Chang, who, although a little shy, still asks not to talk like that. She heard that that city was attacked by an infected demon who turned all people into monsters, and then the mask had no choice. One of the team members jokes whether Yang is a paid person from the internet, clearly expressing ridicule, to which the girl begins to make excuses. The captain, realizing that the argument will soon develop into a conflict, asks everyone to end this conversation. He asks if they want to do a stand-up routine for a guest, pointing to the main character. The team moves on to meet the main boss. This part of the dungeon is completely covered with cobwebs. The archer is interested in the contents of the chest, which is guarded by the last enemy, and the girl notices that now his body can be sold for a good price. The atmosphere becomes tense. The commander reaches for his sword and informs everyone that the enemy is coming. Suddenly a spider appears, even larger than the previous ones, and its body is all interspersed with fiery color. Having shouted that he is taking on the boss, the commander swings his sword. The blade of the weapon blocks the paws of an incredibly strong enemy, but one of the members gets there in time. He swings his spear to help the main one. The guy concentrates his energy as much as possible and aims straight at the boss's head. Meanwhile, one of the spider's legs hits very close to Xiao Chu. He knows that low-level monsters have no intelligence at all. It will be quite easy to deal with the creature. The main character decisively hits one of the main boss's paws. At the same time, the archer shoots arrows from his bow at the spider, and the girl directs the fire. Chang heals the captain, directing her healing power towards him. The monster on fire screams in pain and staggers. The boss drops dead, and the captain heads off towards the others, noting that they can handle the third-level dungeons without any damage as long as they work together. The swordsman ensures that he will distribute the final reward the same way as last time, but will not forget about Xiao. Meanwhile, the main character is indignant, because this is not a third-level dungeon in the system. This area is clearly designated as fourth. While the hero is thinking, one guy notes that the secret chest still hasn't appeared next to the boss. The girl looks into the far passage of the dungeon. In her opinion, something else is approaching here. At this moment, a girl appears from the darkness. Her clothes are very shabby, and her movements are unnatural. This girl's head looks pretty weird. On her head is an astronaut's helmet. The creature, meanwhile, is sent to the team. The captain's expression changes, and he has a guess why the chest still hasn't appeared. The swordsman exclaims that she is the secret boss. The guy from the team says that she is not that creepy. The huge spider was more frightening. The monster opens its bright pink eyes and begins to approach people much faster than before. But one of the guys stood in the boss's way, pushing his spear forward and pointing it at the creature. The archer yells at the guy, calling him an idiot because such an attack is very easy to dodge. But still, the spear pierces the chest of the girl in the helmet, and she begins to fall. The monster's chest is pierced by a spear, and he begins to fall down, losing his balance. The others are watching this spectacle. The girl is happy, the captain is excited, and Qiu Xiao is calm as always. The spearman turns to his partners in bewilderment in his opinion. Everything was too easy. But a web begins to emerge from the hole punched in the body and wraps itself around the guy. The boss begins to pull him towards him. The spearman is so scared that he begins to cry hysterically. The commander understands that such a thick web is not so easy to get rid of. He asks the magician to use flame. The girl immediately uses her power, directing it at the enemy. The fire envelops the monster. The captain orders the archer to quickly save his partner and prevent him from falling into the fire. The guy is surprised the fire looks like a huge funnel that cannot be broken through. At the same moment, the girl grows several pairs of legs. Now she looks more like a spider. The captain is also scared. He has never seen a boss like this before. The fire gradually goes out, and the spearman runs away from the enemy with tears in his eyes. But the blow comes from the back. The boss pierces the guy's body in the same way as he did before, and blood begins to flow from the spearman's mouth. Life leaves the human body, and the monster rejoices. The archer loses his temper. He shouts the name of his killed friend. He pulls the bowstring and wants to kill this creature. And now a little competition to warm up, my favorite YouTube viewer. Somewhere in this video I will tell you the secret 4-digit code. Whoever writes it first in the comments, I will personally send him $20 to his cryptocurrency wallet. Good luck to you, my hero. Having held him back, the main character advises not to go after a boss of such strength. Otherwise the guy will get as much as a spearman on the ground. The archer turns to the hero, trying to say something, but he is interrupted by the captain. He admits that Xiao is right. They will not win if they attack recklessly. The man asks the magician how much time is left before the portal opens, to which the girl replies that in 3 hours. The captain concludes that all they can do is fight, gradually retreating towards the exit, and then leave as soon as it opens. At the same moment, the archer warns everyone that the creature is approaching them again. The boss releases more webs from his chest, directing them towards the heroes. This web lands on the swordsman, wrapping itself around the man's right arm. Wasting no time, the archer immediately draws his bowstring and shoots arrows at the spider, intending to save his partner. But the creature immediately binds the guy with its web, preventing him from making any more shots. The main boss begins to pull the frightened Tolche towards him. The monster opens its wide mouth full of long fangs. He bites off the head of the unfortunate guy. The girls, unable to watch this, close their eyes. The creature's eyes now glow red as it gleefully devours the archer's head. The captain is very angry. He clenches his teeth and begins to concentrate his energy around himself. He swings his flaming sword sharply, walking over the monster. Pushing his legs forward, the boss blocks the sword. The man is confused. He is scared and surprised by this behavior of the creature. The situation did not work out. A 4th-level monster could not remain without a single scratch after a 3rd-level swordsman used all his strength. Having finished with the guy, the boss takes on the captain. He realizes that it's all over. But the main character still finds one way to save him. He offers to cut off the man's hand and asks for his sword. The swordsman is shocked and frightened even more, but still decides to take this action. He throws his weapon towards Xiao Chu with all his strength. The guy quickly catches the sword and swings it over the prisoner's hand in a jump. The man's limb is cut off at that very second. He screams in severe pain. The captain's pupils are constricted, and there are tears in his eyes. He continues to scream while the boss is distracted, and all nearby objects are covered in blood. Xiao Qiu leads the captain to the far corner of the cave. The man is still in pain. He clenched his teeth, and drops of sweat flowed from his face. Yang Qiang immediately runs up, directing his healing power at the victim. The second girl is much more frightened. She shouts out that she doesn't want to die in such a place and runs away. Ian asks the main hero standing in the distance why he hasn't run away yet. He replies that there is no hiding from the boss. He deliberately allows his victim to escape, because for him this is a real delicacy. The main character also shares that the monsters chosen by the gods feed on the negative emotions of people. Qiang asks again. She clearly does not understand what is being said. Xiao explains that when blessed by the gods, monsters gain terrifying strength and speed, as well as appearances that are beyond human comprehension. The monster begins to act again and releases a huge volume of purple smoke. The girl immediately draws attention to this. Ian rises to his feet and casts a spell on everyone to repel the poison. The smoke also catches the second girl, who has run quite far away. Her eyes roll back, she loses consciousness and falls. Chang also becomes ill. Her face turns red. She understands that this is not poisonous gas, but a spirit suppression spell. The monster becomes alert. He sees that Xiao Chu is the only one who has not lost consciousness. He tells the boss that even though he doesn't have his powers now, the spirit is still at level 14. The hero turns his gaze to the enemy. Now his eyes glow red. The screen shows the main character that the monster's status has been activated, and the main character reports this to the creature. Xiao Chu has armor that covers his entire body. Now the appearance of the main character is very similar to a monster. The monster's eyes glow bright red, and it blows out another puff of smoke. The hero releases his power and prepares to attack the final boss. The enemy doesn't even have time to understand anything before the main character begins his attack. A few seconds later, Xiao is already standing at a distance, holding in his hands the severed limb of a spider, from which the purple blood of the monster is flowing. Crying out in pain, the creature begins to lose its balance, blood gushing from its open wound. Unable to think of another option, the boss releases his web, but in much larger quantities than before. But the attack even slightly misses the hero, who ends up behind. He begins to mock the enemy's actions, because they are clearly too simple and stupid. Cho still holds the severed leg in his hands. He leans on the wall and is already preparing a new attack. The main character approached the boss with great speed, immediately cutting off several more limbs from the creature. It again does not have time to understand anything. When the main character attacks again, he cuts off 6 more legs, leaving the monster with only 1. Releasing the severed legs from his hands, he recommends that the enemy hurry up and retreat. The same one does not waste time. The enemy tries to get away from the main character, jumping on his remaining leg, but he doesn't have time. Xiao Chu cuts off the last limb. The boss falls to the stone floor. The creature begins to crawl, helping itself with its hands, but the main character appears in front of its face, blocking its escape route. Xiao is full of strength. He asks the monster if he ever thought that he would end up in the place of the people he played with in the past. The hero stepped on the enemy's head, crushing his head, thereby killing him. The system counts the victory over the final boss and returns all survivors to the ordinary world. More than 2 hours have passed since this event, but Yang Changchang still seems like it was a dream. The captain was almost immediately taken to the hospital because he had the most injuries, but the girl is consumed by the fact that she still hasn't seen the main character. She really hopes that he hasn't died. However, at the same moment, she sees a familiar silhouette. Xiao Chu stands in front of the apartment rental banner. After completing the mission, the system teleported him to Dae City. He should find a place to stay here for the night. The hero turns out his empty pockets, noting that in his past life, other people did such things. While he fought monsters, he did not have to worry about money. The main character is pulled out of his thoughts by Yang Chang, shouting his name. The guy recognizes the girl and asks if she is the healer from the secret location. The girl is offended, waving her finger. She again tells the hero her name and its spelling. Yang pays attention to the stand. She understands that Xiao is looking for a place to stay for the night, and wonders if he has relatives in this city, to which she receives a negative answer. The girl walks around the city, telling her that it was built just a couple of years ago, but the main character silently listens and follows her. The two stop at a white gate with wooden doors. Chang says this is her house. She also points out that the main character will have his own room and won't have to worry about causing inconvenience. Xiao Chu is pleasantly surprised. The guy notices a large iron medal hanging on the fence. The girl says that her father will receive it after his resignation. The heroine's dad was a 5th-level professional, and according to him, he fought side by side with Mask. They not only lived in the same camp, but also ate from the same pan. After a slight hesitation, the girl admits that these words have been told since she was very young, so she doesn't even know whether it's true or not. The heroine's monologue is interrupted by Xiao, asking where her father is now, to which she receives the answer that he is no longer there. She runs her hand over the medal, saying that the protracted war left him with painful wounds, although they managed to heal. But the man spent too much vitality, which is why he died. Afterwards, Chu asks a question about Yang Changchang's mother, to which she receives the answer that she died at the birth of the girl's sister. The main character is very surprised and doesn't even know what to answer, but still, the heroine is full of positivity. She asks the guy not to make such a face, noting that this happened many years ago, and she has already come to terms with it. She decides not to pursue this topic further, and invites the main character to come over. Once in his rather spacious and bright house, Chang points Xiao to his room. But before he can enter, a blue-eyed girl in a wheelchair appears in the room. She immediately asks who the guy is. Yang readily explains to Qianlu that the guy is her partner, with whom she went through a secret location together. He came to Daihe and will live in their house for a couple of days. But the girl doesn't really believe it, because the guy doesn't really look like a member of her old team. She sarcastically notes that it is very noble to drag home someone you just met. The girl returns to her room, and Qiang immediately begins to apologize, because Qianlu is generally good. She immediately becomes irritated at the sight of strangers, because she is a little afraid of them. She complements this with the fact that today there is a trial of Musk, whom she thanked from the very cradle, which is why she behaves this way. The main character thinks he didn't expect that he had so many fans. At this time, Qianlu is sitting in his room. The room is dark. Only a fairly large monitor provides light. She sees a large number of comments about Mask, which makes her very angry. The girl can't even resist using obscene language. Yang calls her sister for dinner, but she only replies that she doesn't want to eat and begins to write her comments in response to all the negative ones. The eldest of the girls asks to leave, if only because they have a guest at home today. But the youngest doesn't care. She doesn't understand why on earth she should be glad to see him. Cheng retreats and accepts that her sister will not come out. Sitting down at the table, the heroine apologizes for the absence of a relative, as well as for the too simple food. Xiao says that the food is very tasty, hanging a piece of one of the dishes on chopsticks. He eats with pleasure, remembering his diet in the past. Then he thought that as long as he was able to fight the darkness for the sake of humanity, any food, even those that were difficult to swallow, became appetizing. Meanwhile, the television is on the news, where Musk's disappearance is discussed during the morning meeting. The man with glasses claims that the renunciation of powers was for the sake of show, and the disappearance of the guy is connected with the renunciation of crimes. The second man says that he heard contradictions among people, and also wonders whether Musk's disappearance will affect the peaceful life of citizens. The reasoning of the presenters comes to the conclusion that society has never relied on the strength of one person, and their main body is Parliament. The main character is not affected by these words. He also calmly continues to eat, but Yang is slightly indignant. She asks Xiao's opinion, and is also surprised by it that the guy is already eating his 4th serving in a row. He, without looking up from his food, still speaks his mind. He believes that, given Musk's behavior, television is simply trying to say that he is hiding from crimes. But the girl interrupts Chu, exclaiming that Musk definitely must have reasons for this. The main character simply agrees with this. The heroine notes that he is absolutely indifferent to this topic, and this one does not bother him at all. Before the meal is over, someone starts banging on the door of the house. The girl is scared. She says that these are people from one well-known company. Young Chang immediately runs outside and opens the door. There are 4 large men standing outside the gate, who note that it is difficult to meet the girl. The heroine is outraged, because she had long ago made it clear to them that she was not going to sell this house. But one of the men does not back down. He tells Yan about the poor condition of her boss, and the disbandment of the team in which she was a member. The girl does not understand how he knows all this, but the mister reminds her of his position. He also teases the heroine that she has no one else to rely on. The man announces that he is giving the sisters 5 more days to think. If after this time they do not decide to cooperate, then matters will be decided differently. He also announces a price of $100,000 for the house. Cheng is very indignant because just recently the company was talking about $3 million, and now the price has dropped so much. The elder says that the real estate market is in constant flux, and this is normal. And he also begins to put pressure on the girl, reminding her about her sister's health, which requires money to maintain. At this moment, Xiao Chu appears behind the heroine, coming closer. The man pushes young Qiang aside, heading to meet the guy. He introduces himself as Kenzo, and notes that he would be happy to collaborate with the main character in the future. Kenzo extends his hand to Xiao, to which he also extends his hand in response. Chang shouts to him that the man is a magician who specializes in mental attacks. The girl's eyes are full of fear. The hands of both touch. The man begins his attack towards the main character. Starting to penetrate the subconscious, Kenzo notes that the guy's mind will be destroyed. But the man's plans change. He does not understand what is happening, because he should have already finished. Kenzo finds himself in the hero's subconscious, which is a whole ocean of mental power. He understands that he needs to get out of this place as soon as possible. But the man does not have time to leave. A huge wave rises above him. Once in the ocean, Kenzo realizes that Xiao is on a completely different level. In the darkness of the subconscious, 2 different eyes appear, and the man begins to scream. He realizes that the guy is a monster. At this time, the partner is trying to shake the man so that he wakes up. The girl is indignant. She absolutely does not understand what happened. Another man swings at Xiao Chu, because he understands that this is his doing. But he is stopped by Tsai, who explains that the guy is clearly much stronger than him. With simple reasoning, they come to the conclusion that the main character is most likely 3rd-level personnel. Tsai picks up his partner's body, telling Chang that they underestimated her. The men leave, leaving the heroes alone again. Yang asks Chiu if he knocked out Kenzo. Looking away, Xiao says that he did not want to interfere, but the man asked for it himself. He asks the girl how long these guys have been bullying her, to which he receives the answer that about 4 years. Also, these people constantly tried to break into them, often taking advantage of the girl's absence and intimidating her sister. But fortunately, 2 years ago, Yang Changchang became a second-level professional and joined Captain Song's team. He secretly threatened the men, and they no longer dared to appear. She is amazed that these terrible people came to them as soon as they learned about the captain's condition. The main character does not understand that the government should have helped the girls, because they are the family of a soldier. He also doesn't understand what kind of company came here. Yang just shrugs. She looks after the people leaving and notes that it is more profitable for the state to be on the side of those who bring in income. After some time, the heroes find themselves in the kitchen again. Xiao Chu is washing the dishes, despite Chang Chang's objections. In his opinion, everything possible must be done to show his gratitude to the person who helped. The girl wipes clean dishes and says that the main character provided a lot of help. He helped drive all the people away from the company. She asks the guy about his plans for the future, suggesting that he will join another team to clear out secret areas. He only agrees. Looking into the distance, Yang shares that she really hopes that Captain Song will recover very soon. And if not, then she has no choice but to look for a new team. She is also afraid of a team within which there will be enmity, but immediately promises the main character that she will definitely recommend him if she finds a good team. He agrees, but unfortunately, from the moment he entered the path of the monster, he already knew that no one would fight side by side with the monster. Suddenly, a familiar screen appears in front of Xiao Chu, telling him about a new mission. The main character confidently emerges from the portal, glowing blue. The guy examines the new location, noticing that this time the secret kingdom looks in the style of medieval Europe. Chu looks at the 2 monster statues on high pillars. The statues suddenly come to life, revealing their ugly appearance. Lost in thought, the main character realizes that if Yang Changchang's squad had encountered this creature, they would have suffered heavy losses. 2 gargoyles attack the main character, their eyes glowing bright red, and their movements are fast and sharp. But before the monsters have time to overtake the hero, he takes on his monster form in order to deal with his enemies as quickly as possible. He swings his arms with great speed, cutting off the heads of the creatures he comes across with his claws. Both enemies are eliminated, and Xiao Chu continues his journey through the secret location. But as soon as he walks quite a bit, dozens more gargoyles appear in one of the halls. The creatures take off and are about to attack the hero at once. Xiao crouches down, preparing to fly up to strike first. He hits the first monster in the neck, piercing it right through. Chu kicks the second one in the head, after which it shatters into stone fragments. Having dealt with everyone, the main character holds the last monster in his hands. Chu remembers well that gargoyles have no feelings, but his enemy still trembles with fear, afraid to die. And then the hero tears the creature into 2 parts, pulling the wings. All the smaller enemies are left behind, and Xiao Qiu moves on to the final boss. The leader of the gargoyles appears right in front of the main character. He is much larger in size, more human-like, and also holds a huge iron spear in his hands. Xiao catches himself thinking that his overly human appearance makes him want to kill the leader, and begins a fight with him. At the beginning of the location, there is a small team consisting of 2 girls and 2 boys. The archer asks if they are the first squad to enter here. The captain agrees, because the people from the inspection bureau promised him that this place was sealed before their arrival. But these words are refuted by the short-haired girl. According to her, someone incredibly strong has already been here. She points to the butchered corpse of the gargoyle, analyzing what happened to it. She turns her frightened gaze to the captain and says that this creature was torn apart like a rag. But the team's defeats do not end there. The archer points to the wall, saying that now he definitely has no doubts. The leader of the pack is nailed to the stone wall, pierced through with his own spear. In the secret area control bureau, everyone is confused. A large man throws a stack of papers onto the table with all his might. 7 teams have already reported that the dungeons have already been cleared before them. He also doesn't understand how some team or individual escaped the bureau's monitoring and entered the secret area without registering, all of which is listened to by several more workers, who are also unhappy with this situation. But one guy still thinks that there is nothing wrong with this in any case. Sooner or later, the secret areas will be cleared by someone. This angered the man even more. He hits the table with his fist, because this means that someone secretly helped another person penetrate the dungeons, and this is an abuse of authority. He also complements his words with the fact that there is no problem in killing the monster, but an unregistered user can ambush the dungeon and attack the party. Looking at the employees, the man notes that they are a new generation and have not seen wild times before control, because the most common cause of death in dungeons is not at all from monsters, but from the hands of comrades. He frowns. After all, people should not die because of meaningless internal conflicts. The chapter closes the topic and continues to deal with questions about dungeons. One of the girls asks why it is believed that it was one person and not several. The man tells her that the wounds on the bodies of the monsters are similar. The head sharply orders to closely monitor the professional market and find out if he has recently sold trophies from hidden areas. Meanwhile, at the city market for professionals, a man full of enthusiasm. He hands over a wad of money and asks not to forget about it when the person sells something. The main character takes the money and begins to count it. He thinks that most likely he sold everything cheap again. But he doesn't really need such materials obtained from secret areas. The guy looks at the proceeds and wonders if this money is enough to pay Yang Qiangqiang's rent. But Xiao Qiu's attention is attracted by the girl's argument. She does not agree with the amount that the seller offered her for the sword. The seller just scratches his head. The weapon is too old, the blade is very thin, but it is still a material that can be bought for scrap metal. Qiangqiang completely drooped, because her late father's sword, which was very dear to her, had just been called scrap metal. But the man took pity on her and raised the price to $3,500. The girl looks at the sword with sadness. She doesn't want to sell it, but otherwise there won't be enough money to treat her sister. Grinning contentedly, the man begins to think that the weapon contains forged coal iron, which can be obtained in a few secret areas. The man will earn tens of thousands from it. The merchant advises the girl to hurry up with the sale, otherwise he will not buy the sword at all. But Xiao Qiu stops her. Yang is surprised by his appearance, but the main character only says that he will tell everything later. He scans the sword and invites the heroine to pick it up herself. The seller is very indignant. He leans over the counter and shouts to the guy that he has already agreed on the purchase. Qiu calmly informs the girl that the money offered is too little, and he hands her his proceeds. The merchant is very upset. He realizes that he has now lost a huge amount of money. The heroes are sitting on a bench. The girl is counting the money, and the guy is examining his sword. Qiangqiang hands part of the amount to Xiao Qiu, saying that for him the sword will cost a maximum of 1,500 because he saved her more than once, and she cannot take that much money. But the main character does not accept this. I argue that the girl provided him with housing, which is how she paid him. Both stand their ground. Qiu also tells the heroine that the sword is not as simple as she thinks. He cannot tell her the reason, only reveals it, that it costs much more than several thousand. The girl is surprised the sword that she has kept since childhood turns out to be very mysterious. She draws an analogy with the mystery of the main character. Yang calmly says that she will not meddle in the affairs and secrets of the hero. She only asks to handle Fei Ya's sword well, because this is the only thing that she and her sister got from their father. Looking at the weapon, Xiao notes that the name suits the sword very well. Still, the girl is completely desperate, because she could not protect her father's last thing, but she needs to somehow pay for Qianlu's treatment. The main character is interested in this topic, and Qiangqiang begins her story. Yang recalls the old story about the great demon Dahi, where the monster destroyed everyone. All the professionals entered the battle. Only thanks to the sacrifice of these people, ordinary residents were able to get to the shelter. The great demon's most deadly attack was its radiation, which then turned everything green, covering half the city. People caught in the radiation died, and Qianlu was partially hit by it. Her legs were hit at the border. Now the youngest is forced to receive treatment from professionals on a personal level. Otherwise the radiation will spread and she will ultimately die. Xiao Qiu clarifies whether the government gave them the money, as Musk asked. But the girl obviously doesn't even understand what she's talking about. Rising from the bench, Qiangqiang wipes away the tears that have come out, and says that she felt better when she spoke out. The heroine rolls up her sleeves, reminding the main character that he spoke about the delicious rice that she prepared. But this time, she wants to show her real level. Two guys dressed in formal suits pass by the heroes. One of them does not understand whether they can really find here the one who penetrated the secret locations. The youngest of the sisters is at home. At this moment, she plans to take a sip of water and continue the argument in the comments. But she doesn't have time to do even that when some people start breaking into the house. Qianlu's eyes widen in fear. These are representatives of the Kaijiang investment company. The girl is very scared and does not know what to do, but she notices a wooden sword in the corner with which she easily defeated adults in the past. She moves towards the gate, holding the weapon tightly in her hands. The man kicks down the doors, clearing the way. He is only amused by Qianlu, who is already completely ready to attack and defend. The girl confidently swings her weapon at the enemy, but she loses her balance and falls out of her wheelchair. The man steps on the sword and mocks the younger one, because he stands firmly on his feet, and she is only disabled. More people enter the area. The commander orders them to search everything and find Xiao Qiu and Yang Qiangqiang. But even after going through the entire house, the subordinates are disappointed to report that the heroes are not here. Then the chief offers to take Qianlu, because all three have driven themselves into a trap. But one of those who came hesitantly says not to do this, because it will be a kidnapping, and then there will be a noise. The captain gives him an assignment. He asks the guy to break into the yard when the heroes return. They will fill the car with garbage from all over the area. This incident can easily be attributed to problems with the car. It begins to rain heavily in the city. Xiao and Qiangqiang are rushing home. The girl tried to hide from the water by holding something over her head, but the guy just follows her. But immediately the heroine trembles. She sees the open gate and her sister lying in the middle of the yard. The younger one tries to get up, cursing all those who broke into the house. Ian shouts out his sister's name and rushes to her aid. The eldest tries to seat her relative in the stroller while she begins to talk about the events that happened. The girl asks Xiao Chu to drop Qianlu into the house while she takes things from the yard. But before they have time to enter, a car drives into the yard and dumps a huge amount of garbage onto the territory. The driver demonstratively pretends that he does not understand what happened, and also adds that the presence of rain now is clearly good, because Chang Chang will be able to wash himself. He leaves, announcing that this is their first gift from the Kaijiang company. The younger one calls her sister and wants to drive up to her, but the main character does not let the girl in. He believes that it is better for Yang to figure it out herself. The guy also compliments this with the words that Qianlu will only make things worse if he goes, which greatly surprises the girl. Chang Chang heads towards her sister but simply passes by, leaving her loved ones alone. Almost crying, the youngest of the girls asks Xiao why everything is like this. She turns to the hero again, asking him to tell him whether there is justice at all. Chu indifferently replies that he has never met. The hero extends his hand from under the canopy. He continues his thoughts, saying that even this rain falls differently for everyone. It pours on both poor people and dishonest people. The main character sharply squeezes the girl's wooden sword and breaks it, loudly saying that standing in this rain is also unfair. Qianlu burst into tears, holding a piece of her wooden weapon in her hands. Xiao Chu looks up and explains that he did not intend to interfere in the girl's problems. They are not interesting to him, but at the same time they evoke pity and sympathy. The hero goes out into the yard, moving away from Qianlu, who asks what he is going to do. He calmly replies that he will deal with the company. The younger one starts screaming in her opinion, "The guy has gone crazy," because the thugs of this company are real high-level professionals. Trying to convince the main character not to go, she says that these problems are boring and he will be finished. But Chu does not listen to her at all. Xiao agrees with the second, but notes that he always liked to relieve boredom and unsheathes his sword. The hero is full of strength and readiness to kill all problems and boredom. Xiao Chu is standing in front of the Kaijiang investment company building on the street. Many people are sheltering from the rain with umbrellas. Only the hero is indifferent to moisture. Two strong men stop the main character at the entrance and ask him to put away his weapon. But the guy doesn't listen to them at all and goes further, deeper into the room. Not even a second passes before the two hapless workers simply find themselves chopped into small pieces while Xiao calmly moves forward. The company is not going to let him through. Several swordsmen come to defend him. All four surround the guy and prepare to attack him. But they fail. Chu easily dodges all attacks and puts his sword to the worker's throat. In one motion, he cuts off the heads of two opponents. Another daredevil wants to attack the main character from behind. He is already concentrated and ready to do it. He also does not go unnoticed. The hero cuts off his hand with his weapon. Immediately after, he turns the sword and pierces the attacker's chest. The survivors notice that the killer's sword is stuck, and this is a perfect opportunity to attack. But the main character easily takes Fei Ya out of the corpse and throws another swordsman to the side. Everyone who got in the way is dead. The main character is pleased with himself. He continues his way through the building, scaring away all the people around him and leaving bloody footprints with his muddy boots. At this time, the captain is relaxing on the sofa in his office, and blissfully talks about how he will soon take the house from his sisters. The blonde man adds that once he develops this land, he can sell it for a ton of money. But before the dialogue can continue, an excited guy bursts into the office and reports that there is a killer at the entrance. The guy also reports that many of their employees were killed, to which he receives a question about the number of killers. He replies that it is only one person. The captain is scared. He remembers for sure that among their victims there are no such strong professionals. The man gets up from his seat and offers to look at what is happening. They take their weapons and go searching. They see a worker with his hands up, begging someone not to kill him. This does not bear any fruit. The man swings his sword, inflicting wounds on the worker that are incompatible with life. Xiao Chu walks up the stairs, full of anger and his eyes shining red. The captain tells the other men not to be afraid, because they are level 4 professionals. The captain invites the main character to surrender without a fight. Then he will not touch the hero's corpse. But he is stopped by one of the assistants, who says that the guy is Chang Chang's new friend, from whom his people suffered. Chu holds his sword ready. He also understands that since there are 3 strong professionals here, it will be difficult for him to maintain his human appearance. The main character also turns off the lights on the entire floor, scaring the employees even more. They are all surprised, but then one of the men comes into play, who owns the twilight vision technique, which helps him see in the dark as during the day. He looks around and sees some creature in the corridor. He realizes that it is a monster. The man falls into a stupor, even though he holds his pistols at the ready. But he also realizes that the creature is stronger. Joseph begins to back away, hoping to get away from the enemy. The commander smells blood. He calls his partner, but he does not answer. Lightning strikes outside the window, illuminating the face of the monster standing in front of him for the leader. The main character attacks, but the leader manages to defend himself, blocking the enemy's blow with his axe. He understands that if he does not have time to react to at least one blow, he will die immediately. But the captain is helped by his other partner, who fired an ice arrow at Xiao Chu. This does not bother the hero in any way. He stops the block with one hand. By squeezing it slightly, the main character breaks the ice, which instantly shatters into small pieces. The hero returns to the captain again, turning his gaze to him. Just a few seconds later, bloody dew appears on the leader's neck. The man's head is cut off, and Chu begins to attack the survivors. 3 swordsmen see a creature unfamiliar to them. They are all scared and don't know what to do. The main character comes almost close to the first swordsman, and again after a few seconds, Xiao copes with his opponents. A dark-haired and curly-haired man decides to stop him, shouting to him with an order about it. He assesses the enemy, first assumes that it is a monster, but at the same time the characteristic aura of madness is not felt from the creature. The swordsman begins to go down. He realizes that the hero is the only one in the world who is capable of being in a state between man and monster. The man begins to act. He aims at Xiao, but the hero manages to dodge, and the attack only hits part of his face. The attacker realizes that it is not for nothing that this is a humanoid-looking monster, because he was even able to dodge its attack. The swordsman does not give up. He begins to wield his sword with great speed. But still, the blows cause almost no harm to Chu. The attacker decides on another, less obvious technique. He aims his weapon at the main character's body, but he easily dodges. It seems the swordsman's plan worked. A pistol appears in the man's hand, which he puts to the enemy's face. He easily pulls the trigger and fires. The man smiles. He is very pleased with himself. This move should take off half the monster's face. Only the attacker did not calculate the opponent's strength. Xiao quickly recovers the wound. The swordsman begins to worry. He does not understand how this is even possible. Realizing that there is no point in retreating, he asks how his opponent found out about this. Xiao Chu replies that he knows this technique. He even set the rules of justice when he created them. According to the swordsman, the monster is crazy, because this technique was created by none other than Mask. He also asks if killing monsters like the protagonist is not justice. Chu answers the question with a question whether it is not unfair that the swordsman ruined a huge number of people. The man does not care which plot is owned by the main character, and this punishment is injustice, and he will always stand on the side of justice. After these words, the swordsman confidently moves towards the hero to attack. Xiao Chu shows his true strength when many sharp shoots appear from his body. The man begins to dodge the attacks, but his opponent attacks too quickly. The main character pierces a man with his shoots, pinning him to the wall. With the last of his strength, the swordsman asks who this monster is. The main character remembers that he did not introduce himself. All enemies are neutralized. Now Xiao Chu activates his sword, collecting all the blood with it. The main character notes that even though there are changes outside, holding a weapon in his hand, he seems to feel its heartbeat. Now the character is finally presented as a monster of limitless potential. Xiao Chu's gaze falls on the survivor, who desperately begs for mercy. The hero does not listen to him, and orders the awakened sword to help him with this. Fei increases in size tens of times and cuts the unfortunate man in half. At this time, the soldier reports to his commander about this, that they have completely surrounded the company building, and that all the streets and underground sewers are under their control. They can also send people to attack at any time. The commander decides to wait. First, he should invite the enemy to surrender, and also look at what is happening, because if you act recklessly, innocent people may die. He thinks to himself that there are no innocents in this building, but this is the government's business, not theirs. The soldiers announce that someone has come out of the building. It is Xiao Chu in human form and completely covered in wounds. Young Chiang Chang learns from his sister that the main character went to the Kaijiang company alone. The girl immediately grabs an umbrella and runs to the exit to find Xiao. But as soon as she goes outside, a guy from the city army stops her. He asks the name of the heroine. She says her name and receives an answer that she is needed to investigate a certain body. The military man shows a photo of the guy and asks, "Does Ian know him?" Immediately recognizing Xiao Chu, the girl excitedly asks if he is alive, to which he immediately receives the answer that he is alive, and even feels well. Meanwhile, the guy is in the special purpose prison of the defense forces. He sits on a chair with his hands tied behind his back. He only confessed to the company's attack, and also gave his first and last name, and now he has been silent for a long time. The guy has no birth certificate or other documents. He is like a ghost who has completely escaped government surveillance. The employee reads out the protocol, which says this, that the young man is connected with a certain Yang Chang Chang, whom not only they, but also the Secret Areas Inspection Bureau were looking for. The guy explains to the boss that the girl is a second-level professional, and her father was a fifth-rank professional. The soldier also reports that later Chang Chang's father died in a battle with a great demon, and his younger sister suffered greatly. According to the report, the girl and her team met Xiao Chu in the dungeon. who appeared there without an official request. Next, they report the reason why Xiao started all this. The head of the department, Arthur, came in and replied that the hero is just a fierce knight with a sword. The head of the department looks at his wristwatch, and then he offers to go and find out everything for yourself. Chu hears that someone has entered the room and looks up at whoever is there. Arthur catches the protagonist's gaze on himself, but understands that he looks at his cloak and with some nostalgia. The man sits down in front of Chu and speaks that he himself should understand what should await him for committing such a crime. He is offered either the death penalty or redemption in the form of fighting on the front lines in battles with the highest level of danger. But after that, he will be able to return to normal life. The manager adds to himself that it is impossible to return from the front line alive. Most die in the first battle, and at least 100 are needed for redemption. The main character asks if fighting monsters is a punishment. He thinks to himself that in this way, he can cleanse his soul, despite the number of crimes committed. From the tone of his voice, Arthur understands that the guy has already been to the front and asks what he did there and in what role. The hero replies that he has been there a lot, but not as a soldier. Now he is laconic and clearly does not want to answer. Realizing that few fight at the front, the man decides to compare photographs of military personnel with Zhao's appearance in order to understand who he was. The second man says that he has been at the front for almost 10 years and can be considered a veteran, only Musk. And the first party that established the line of retreat for the monsters can be more qualified than him. Arthur points to the Order of the Mask hanging on his cloak. He also notes that despite this, he was far behind him and only looked at the hero's back. The second man hits the table with his hand. He tells Chu that since he was on the front line, he must surely understand that the current peace was very difficult for them. He also tells the hero that if someone finds out about his method of avoiding the monitoring bureau, it will simply be a shock to society, and people's usual lives will simply be destroyed. The men begin to leave. Arthur tells Xiao that he hopes he will understand and be generous, because if he is sent to federal prison, then no one will treat him so kindly. The door of the room closes. People disappear from the view of the main character. He also notes to himself that he would really like to return to the federal capital one more time. At the same moment, the system again issues a task to the main character. This time he must destroy a new elemental demon. After all, he didn't die last time. Xiao Chu, however, knew that the monster would be restored, because this had already happened in a past life. Sometime after his trial, the demon found one infected professional and used him as a carrier to be reborn. Mask had just been sent to the front line. He quickly destroyed the demon with one blow, but he still managed to cause little damage, for which the hero was heavily criticized. Due to such a strong wave of condemnation, he was forced to come forward again. The main character was again tried and forced to apologize to all the people. In this life, there is no longer Mask. There is only Xiao Chu, who does not understand what he has to do with the life or death of other people. Arthur watches the main character through the glass while he is asked why he was so courteous. The head of the department only answers that he has retired quite a long time ago and is less versed in matters on the front line. He also notes that he has never seen someone his age with such power on the front line. Another man lights a cigarette and concludes that the main character is a genius for cutting off the heads of 6th-level professionals at such a young age. Arthur does not agree. Although Xiao Chu may be talented, but he is still an idiot. It is too stupid to waste his life on such a stupid place as the Kaijiang Company. In Star City, people are furiously discussing what to do with Xiao. The man looks at the photo of the criminal. He calls the guy very talented, because he is quite young. But at the same time, he was able to cope with professionals who had reached the 6th level. One of the workers is not satisfied with this. He objects very loudly. The world does not need such people. The more talented the criminal, the more dangerous he is for society. He also vehemently argues to everyone that Xiao Chu must be punished. The blonde man agrees with this and orders the criminal to be sent to the front line, enlisting in the front ranks of the redemption squad. The worker understands that there will be no public trial, which means that the white gloves he placed in various places will be seen by everyone, and he will not be able to use all his anger to punish the person who provoked him. The main one closes this topic and raises another, more important one. He does not understand why there is still no information about the mask. Moreover, a person cannot just disappear. He is clearly hiding somewhere. The subordinate tries to reassure the chairman that Musk has no strength now. But then how could he disappear from the courthouse in an instant? But still, everyone present agrees what they felt was that Mask had dissipated his power so that the hero no longer posed any threat. The man believes that there will always be danger as long as Musk is not under their control. Next, the chairman decides to take stock for the benefit of everyone. It is necessary to find Musk and take control of him. This topic is closed and they move on to other important discussions. The number of incidents with monsters has risen on the front line. This is the first time such an increase has occurred since the formation of the Federation. The man covers his face with his hand. He understands that people can do absolutely nothing without Musk. Such terrible results appeared just a month after his disappearance. The subordinate suggests that the pressure on the hero was too much. The chairman didn't really like these words. He asked in a very aggressive manner, "How dare an employee question their collective decisions?" The guy is just trying to justify himself, saying that he didn't mean anything like that. Here the chairman becomes furious. He is outraged that people cannot do anything on their own, and it seems that they do not believe in themselves. The man also gives the order to mobilize the elite of the army and send them to vulnerable places. But another worker expresses his opinion that this should not be done, because the advanced army is the last defense of most of the city. Sending troops just like that would be a bad idea. He's interrupted by another man, who believes that he simply cannot pocket money from the military budget. The reduction of the army will simply harm him. The subordinate is outraged. He exclaims about it that everything said is slander. The director makes the final decision. The defensive forces will be mobilized and sent, especially since now the monsters no longer appear, and there are no elemental demons. He also points to Xiao Chu's file and asks him to bring the criminal to the city as soon as possible. At this time, in the city of Dahe, Yang Chang had already been checked and realized that she had nothing to do with this. The military was rolling out Qianlu, and the girl was simply walking next to her. The girl also adds that later they should be summoned to court as witnesses, which makes the youngest of the sisters very angry. The employee explains that Xiao Chu committed a terrible crime, but the girl clearly does not understand this, because the main character simply wanted to punish the perpetrators. The military is shocked. The guy has the blood of dozens of people on his hands. There is nothing to discuss here, because murder is a terrible act. Qianlu is indignant. Far from the most honest individuals who harassed many families were killed. Arthur appears from the building and agrees with the younger John that all these people really were murderers. But the man also sternly notes that even if they deserved it, they should have been judged first and not lynched. Almost crying, the girl asks why no one did this then. No less harshly, the man says that the world always needs a victim. Qianlu asks in disappointment if they can't resist this. Zhang stares at the girl and replies that their confrontation will be unfair. Squeezing the handle of the stroller, the youngest Yang shouts that in this case the whole world is a mistake. Chang just looks at her sister sadly, not knowing what to do with her. The girl turns to the eldest, asking her to return home. The sisters move away, and Arthur only says that it would be good if Qianlu could get up. The military woman asks why, to which the man replies that this girl's anger would be an excellent source of strength, and she would get up well. The girls return home. Qianlu stays in her room, and young Cheng leaves to clean the yard. The girl is left alone in the house, alone with her thoughts. She decides that if there is a place in the world where the sun does not reach, then she will illuminate this place herself. After these words, the youngest Yang rises from the wheelchair to her feet. She overcomes the trembling in her limbs and quickly moves out. Chang finishes cleaning and informs her relative about this when an amazing picture catches her eye. She sees that her little sister has stood up on her own. Qianlu raises his hand and asks Yang to run away as soon as possible. The younger girl's body begins to deform, growing larger and changing color. There is a roar in the military defense conference room. People do not understand why a third of the army has now been mobilized. The leadership is acting stupidly. Commander Zhang addresses the officers, but suddenly notices something strange happening outside the windows. A man feels the aura of a great demon on the street. The employees are shocked. They believe that Arthur was mistaken, because the monster was defeated long ago by Mask. The commander is not even going to listen to them. He knocks out the glass from the window with his hand, and also orders to activate the emergency plan. Preparing to jump, the man adds that he takes full responsibility upon himself. Peaceful life reigns in the city. People calmly go about their business. The boy leans towards the flowers and smells their scent. He realizes that spring has finally come. The plants bloom at an abnormal speed. In a minute, the young bud turns into a fully open flower. This amazes the guy. A bee flies to the scent of pollen, but as soon as it inhales a little, flowers appear on the entire body of the insect, and it changes appearance, becoming overgrown with sharp bark. The traffic light turns green. The other guy calls his brother because he didn't notice it. He turns, revealing a terrifying sight to the relative, stems of flowers sprouting from his eyes and mouth. The guy starts screaming throughout the street because he saw the monster his brother has turned into. But he doesn't have time to do anything else. Turning into hundreds of pink petals, a huge clot of flower petals rolls across day, destroying buildings. Silhouettes of human faces are visible in the clot, and people turned into flowers walk nearby. The survivors begin to seek shelter in the meantime, as one of the swordsmen advances on the enemy. The people rejoice because a professional has arrived and they must be saved. The swordsman confidently swings and easily cuts all the petals into two halves. But the happiness from victory does not last long. The man's body begins to deform. His hand turns into a flower stem. Another pro understands that these signs are not new and have already been encountered somewhere. He realizes that this is not just a monster, but a great demon. Commander Zhang and his team arrive at the epicenter of events. The workers are indignant. This cannot be the second coming of the great demon. The victims would rot in the blink of an eye, but they turned into flower demons. The team stops on the roof of a high-rise building. Arthur says that demons are not subject to logic. They can develop in ways that people cannot even imagine. The man orders to take control of the street, watch from afar and not allow the monsters to spread. The team immediately follows the order and jumps down. The remaining people are very scared. They run away from the creatures that are devouring them. The commander arrives and tells the men to duck immediately. He uses a technique that allows him to release a fairly large fire dragon. The flower demons are burned. The people rejoice that they are finally saved. But their conclusions turn out to be hasty. The blonde guy inhales a small amount of ash and turns into a monster. Arthur abruptly realizes that even this ashes contain the aura of a great demon. In a short time, the city begins to look like a jungle. Houses are entwined with vines, the roads are completely overgrown, and there are more and more monsters. One of the professionals calls this place a green hell. Commander Jang gives the entire military order to stop attacking with fire. The man sets the main task that they should not let anything out of the city. These demons are extremely contagious. He goes further, but is stopped by worker Chung, asking about what is happening. Arthur remembers that Chung participated in these events and asks him to confirm. The man is completely sure that this is a great demon, but at the same time does not understand why the monster is still alive. Captain Jiang replies that this demon is one of the few monsters who is truly immortal. The man also compares the creature to a jellyfish. As soon as it ages, it immediately returns to its younger version, doing this ad infinitum. The species of immortal monsters was discovered only 5 years ago, but still this immortality is only technical. If the habitat is destroyed, then even the strongest demon will not be able to survive. Chung understands that the officials who were responsible for resolving this issue are to blame for the spread of demons. Then Musk asks them to study all the victims in order to completely get rid of all traces left by the great demon in Dehi. As soon as the hero left, they immediately forgot about this request. They also appropriated the money allocated for its implementation. The man understands that all this would not have happened if they had obeyed Musk's orders. The commander says that this should be left for later. Now he needs to find out where the very epicenter of this disaster is. The second man raises his voice. In his opinion, going there alone would be a bad idea, and you shouldn't do it. Zhang only says that he feels that there are no monsters that are higher level than him. Moreover, the great demon does not have any outstanding skills. He can only easily infect people. He also believes that if he does not destroy the enemy now, he will have to pay a much greater price later. Finally, Chung tells his partner to be careful and not get infected, and that he will ask a subordinate from the bureau to send a map of energy fluctuations. Meanwhile, all the news urgently announced that a natural disaster monster has appeared in the southeastern region of Days City. Information and photographs are also quickly spreading on social networks, and people are discussing this situation very vigorously. One girl who managed to evacuate shares close-up footage. She also reports that the situation is absolutely not under control. But almost immediately after this, another post appears, talking about killing the demon. Now they are talking about this in the news. The blonde presenter tells us that the commander of the defense forces of the city of Dehi took the initiative into his own hands and acted against the monsters. On the air, we see how Arthur cleanses the city. It's not for nothing that the man has the 7th rank. The demons can't even catch up with him. And the demons also tell you, dear YouTube viewer, that the secret code is 1612. He stops abruptly. This is the epicenter of all events. The commander sees Qianlu, whose legs have grown together with a huge flower, in the center of which she is located. Jiang asks the girl if she is trying to pass herself off as a god, thinking that she can only force people to worship her with her greatness. Chung conveys to his partner the information that, judging by the energy fluctuations, the girl in front of the commander is an awakened great demon. Arthur looks at the girl and says that he did not expect her to turn from human to monster in just a couple of hours. She just grins, asking the man if he has any regrets. Releasing a huge amount of his power, the man admits that his only regret is that he did not kill her when she was still in a wheelchair. The commander directs all his force towards the enemy to wound her. He does this successfully and incinerates almost the entire demon's head. Arthur uses his powers to soar in the sky, observing the monster's reaction to this. And while everyone rejoices at the victory, he realizes that the attack had no effect. The girl makes some kind of indignant sound and easily regenerates her head. The monster recovers in a matter of minutes and turns its gaze to Zhang. And if the man is almost not surprised, then the cameraman filming this battle is clearly plunged into severe shock. This time Arthur concentrates all the strength in his fist and decides that this blow is worth doing right now. 4 streams of power simultaneously pierce the monster's body in several dreams. And yet the demon easily recovers. The girl asks if this is the light that dispels the darkness that the man spoke about in the past. The commander abruptly jumps several meters away from the enemy. He sensed a very strong danger that threatened him. Suddenly, a voice is heard from behind, asking if this is all the speed the man is capable of. She appears behind a frightened Arthur. noting that wanting to dispel the darkness with so much power is simply ridiculous. Jiang flies up, hoping to break away from his opponent, which is clearly stronger than him. The operator notes out loud that the girl is not moving at high speed. She is simply changing her location with the help of plants. Chung hits the table with his hand. He tells the commander that he needs to leave as soon as possible. The man understands that the enemy cannot be killed, no matter how hard they try. He invites his partner to use weapons of mass destruction to destroy the entire infected area. Arthur asks only one question: does his partner still think that he can escape from there? The man takes off his deer cloak and looks for the last time at the order that Mask gave him. The great demon notes that it is quite smart to stop fluttering around, knowing that your efforts are useless. She also looks at her opponent and says that his current state can be compared to a cornered animal. Arthur releases all his strength and proclaims that this is his way to die with dignity. A huge pillar of red-crimson power emanates from the commander. The operator expresses his assumption that the man plans to use the technique of forcing the elements, which can lead to death. But Chung understands that his partner wants to completely release vital forces, the burning of which increases the level. Qianlu begins to speculate out loud that with the release of such power, the 7th level can be compared to the 8th. But because of this, the body will experience severe overload after such a reception. Professionals turn into ordinary people, and some even become paralyzed. The man again directs all his energy into Qianlu, only this time there is much more power in it. But the girl is confident in her abilities. She cannot be killed as long as she moves her mind into different plants. But before she can use it, Commander Jiang cuts off half of the enemy's body before it can move. And while everyone rejoices at the victory over the enemy, Chung reports that the monster is still alive, and also that it is not even a great demon. This is the giant Antaeus, who cannot be defeated as long as he stands on the ground and draws strength from there. The sources of his energy are also all tens of thousands of mutated ones, who also must be destroyed for victory. Suddenly, energy levels begin to increase at incredible speed. Chung reports that now the girl has become a natural disaster. Qianlu condescendingly notes that it is simply incredible that human professionals can reach such a level by burning themselves out. The girl begins to reason why Arthur did not dispel the darkness that he spoke so confidently about, why he allowed innocent people to die, and also why he allowed her to die. The creature's emotions are out of control. All the flower demons rise and begin to head towards their leader. In another part of the city, they are trying to save civilians. The military is holding a protective dome, which allows them to hide from the enemy. The demons have been trying to break through the dome for a long time. The professionals, a little more, and they won't be able to stand it. But the monsters suddenly retreat in the other direction, freeing the sphere. The military are happy that they managed it and can finally rest. Happiness does not last long. One of them notices that this is not the end yet. Many roots and stems form a huge cocoon, in the center of which is Qianlu. After a short time, the cocoon opens, and a girl emerges from it. Only she has increased in size hundreds of times. Commander Jiang is standing at her ear, ready to attack again at any moment. He again concentrates all his power in his hand, but this time it is a different color, bright scarlet. In the end, Arthur states that everyone in this world is accustomed to death. The man looks very shabby. His whole body is covered with red spots, which were formed by burst blood vessels. Jiang rushes forward and ends his words by saying that there is nothing wrong with being alive either. Qianlu half-heartedly raises his hand to prevent the attack, but her eyes widen in surprise when she sees that the energy is simply burning her hand in the very center, and does not stop. The news is still actively broadcasting. The presenter joyfully announces that humanity still has a chance to win. Even those who are far from the scene of events sincerely rejoice at this one man even decides to become a professional, who will command lightning. But once again, hopes turn out to be false. The demon again easily regenerates his lost limb. She wraps the roots that grew from her hand around Adam, intending to kill him. Qianlu slowly clenches her huge palm into a fist, and finally she offers Jiang to go to hell, since there is nothing interesting in being alive. The girl squeezes her huge hand to the end, crushing the commander to death, leaving only splashes of blood and many flying petals from the man. Shaking off the blood from her hand, she only compares this fight to the fight between a bug and a tiger. Everyone is shocked. The mother closes her daughter's eyes so that she does not see the horror that is now being shown all over television. Another girl desperately takes the guy by the hand and asks if this place has come to an end. The guy himself is lost and doesn't know, but hopes that help is on the way. More and more people crowd around the news screens. People in despair realize that Musk has been retired for a month and will not come to help them. At this time, disaster announcements are heard in the prison where the main character is located, and all personnel are asked to go to evacuation points. Xiaoqiu opens his eyes, interested in what is happening. The chairman is angry. He curses all the professionals who should have been on the front line, but now do not want to do this because of the fear of death. The employees listen to all his words, afraid to object or contradict the boss, but one of them still decides to say that in the first place, it was not worth treating Musk so cruelly. The chairman's gaze changes and he abruptly jumps out of his chair. Another man puts forward the option of using nuclear weapons. If they use low-power weapons, they will be able to get rid of the elemental-level monster. The others immediately agree, because it is much better to sacrifice more for less. All faces are directed at the chairman. They tell him that then people will thank him for saving the city of Day. The man is shocked. He's about to say something to his subordinates, but he is immediately interrupted. The worker sharply shouts that someone has appeared at the scene of the disaster. The main one becomes hopeful, and asks if these are the professionals he sent to fight the demon. The speaker listens to the information he hears in his headphones, holding them with his hand. The man's eyes widened with fear. He fearfully announces that the one there is more like a monster. A crack appeared on the roof of the main building of the Special Self-Defense Forces prison, running right through and emitting smoke. This crack was quite large in size and had several branches, which instantly expanded over the entire area. The guards located inside the special prison of the Self-Defense Forces were frightened, and one of the serving people fell to the floor from what he saw and opened his mouth in horror. A second guard came running to the terrifying sounds and asked his comrade about what was happening and the prisoner's location. The frightened man rose to his feet and, pointing to the roof, told his colleague that the prisoner had escaped through this gap. At this time, there was still horror on the street, because the plants continued to spread throughout the prison. Remaining in charge, one of the fighters informed his comrades that Commander Zhang had died. However, the rest were not as shocked by the news of the death of the commander-in-chief as by the fact that the plant was again beginning its attack on the prison building and the surrounding area. The soldiers dropped their weapons and, as one, rushed to quickly escape from the dangerous place, forgetting about their purpose. The chief rescuer raised his weapon and shouted to those running to stop immediately and continue their service. Having lost hope that the soldiers would conscientiously perform their duties, the new commander rushed towards the plant and planned to deal with it alone. After the man struck the buds and stems of the plant with an energy spear, it began to emit a strange green gas. At the same moment, the bonds of the dangerous rose intertwined with each other and pulled the main fighter into the center. One of the rescuers noticed that the captain was in danger and decided to save him in order to fight with him for everyone's safety. The guy, having overcome his fear, went to the place where the captain once stood and realized that there was nothing left to save. Nevertheless, the young fighter was able to crawl into the center of the plant, where the green stems were actively wriggling. Sometime later, a dangerous rose, the roots of which were cut by the captain, sprayed a fairly large amount of green liquid and gas near the young fighter. The soldier managed to find the body of his commander, and he tried with all his might to bring him to his senses, while the plant seemed to be dead. Looking around, the soldier realized that they were saved, but the brave captain could not come to his senses for a long time. That girl appeared above the roofs of multi-story buildings, with green energy around her and rose roots coming out of her feet. A helicopter with a reporter also flew over the roofs of the buildings, who, despite the danger, wanted to capture everything that was happening on the ground. The pilot told the man that he needed to go higher, as his superiors ordered him to leave this place. But the man with the camera asked him to wait a while until he took the necessary footage. Zooming in on his camera, the reporter saw that help had arrived to help the rescuers, and he was incredibly happy about it. On the large screen of the building where the recordings were broadcast, people watched as help moved towards the scene and began to reprimand them for the slowness and death of the commander. The center of the plant was shown close up, where it was clear that the brave man was crushing the bonds of the rose as quickly and efficiently as possible. When one of those present whispered that this was their hero, not the appearance of a person appeared on the screen, but of a real monster who had pink energy. The monster, who reincarnated into a great demon, had the goal of destroying a new natural disaster, as a reward for which he would be given the core of a great demon. The great demon's aura is different from that of Xiao Chu, because the original great demon symbolized decay and destruction. However, this time it represents the life of primeval forests, tropical plants, vines and tall trees that grow without any restrictions and instantly develop and turn into their own biome. Regardless of whether it is a mountain or a sea, a desert or a city, everything on this planet was transformed into a single organism and plunged into a state of eternal calm. It didn't matter to the main character what it actually was, since he wanted to get the heart of a great demon in order to gain the power to fight those creatures from the void in the future. For her own purposes, Xiao Chu needs to kill the main girl with whom this dangerous phenomenon began. The girl put her hands in front of her and called on everyone to join her, and thereby discover a world without sadness, and injustice. Sister Yang Qianqian began to talk about how she no longer belonged to herself, but her thoughts were soon interrupted by the fact that her southern buds had ceased to exist. Looking around, the dangerous girl did not understand which daredevil managed to cut down her plants. The rescue monster that appeared swung its weapon from side to side and each time destroyed more and more stems. The main character looked at his old friend and realized that he would never have thought that she would be such a creature. Despite all the strength and power of the rose stems, Musk managed to maneuver between them and easily find a way out of the most difficult situations. At some point, Musk climbed onto the green arm of his girlfriend's sister, and she screamed in horror at him to get out of here as quickly as possible. The girl wanted to react to the appearance of the uninvited rescuer, but the mask was not harmed in any way by her green, powerful energy. All the rose plants turned into the likeness of a person when they saw that their leader was in serious danger. The main character was in no way embarrassed by the activity of the buds, because he was completely confident in himself and in his actions. The reporter was surprised by the speed of the rescuer, because at such speed even a natural disaster could not resist his attacks. Even just watching the battle take place made people's adrenaline levels rise and their heart rate quicken. One of the fighters was somewhat perplexed at how monsters could fight so professionally. The monster skillfully dodges every explosion and ash literally by millimeters, and thereby saves time and physical endurance. The man believed that the reason why people are able to fight monsters is because of the difference in wisdom and abilities. But this monster's ingenuity is beyond the reach of even 9th-level professionals. In fact, the fighter was frightened by this situation because he did not know who was in front of them, a monster or a person with a rather strange armor. The confident smile had already disappeared from the girl's face, because Xiao Chu was actively waving a weapon across her body, who was not affected by her defenses and attacks. Outwardly, Musk was truly monstrous, because his entire body resembled a dragon, which was completely covered with pink energy. Absolutely confident in his abilities, the main character flapped his dragon wings and found himself in the face of his sister Qianqian, who was frightened at that moment. The watching citizens did not understand what the point was in hiding and dodging within a few centimeters of the explosions, since the monster could simply take off and take off. That same fighter was in real shock from the actions of the main character, because he thoughtfully approached the head of this flower girl and then unexpectedly flew up. A man would never have done something like this without the colossal self-confidence that Musk possessed. Having calculated all his actions in stages, the cruel monster managed to swing his only weapon and smash the head of the flower queen. The reporter caught the incident on camera and happily commented that this madman was able to defeat this scary woman. The flower monsters ran to attack Mask one after another, but they were not as powerful as the monster. When the flower queen's end came, all of her subordinates suddenly stopped and froze. The male reporter informed the viewers that the humanoid flowers had stopped in the entire city and were no longer moving, and the monster managed to keep the victory over them. All the green plants that covered the huge city had only one question: what kind of dangerous creature was it that killed their main woman? In fact, the girl remained alive, but instead of the upper half of her head, small stems of roses appeared. The heroine looked at the monster, who had already stopped in his active actions, and asked who he really was and why he had a bloody blade in his hand. The flower lady recognized her opponent as a monster and told him that they were in equal roles. The girl's body quickly regenerated, and she concluded that she and the monster had no need to fight, since they had to do one common thing. The girl gave Xiao Chu one rope and made him understand that together they could change this rotten world for the better. Along with the stem, the Queen of Flowers gave the monster the core of the Great Demon, which is capable of allowing the owner to enjoy the overwhelming energy of the Great Demon. The girl did not want to just give the core to the winner, because she wanted him to join her and escape from this lifeless and dirty world. The Lady of Flowers asked the monster to run to the abyss between the mountains and the valley, reaching the river and facing the majestic sea. The small rosebuds obediently stood still and listened to the words of their leader, who said that she and the monster that had appeared needed to destroy the darkness in this world together. Tens of thousands of humanoids listened to their queen and shouted that they would destroy the world with her. The reporter's face changed after the cry of the small flowers, and told the audience that this almost made his heart jump out, because this natural disaster cannot be killed. What bothered the man with the camera most was that the two monsters seemed to have known each other for a long time. The main character listened to the girl, but all this was not interesting to him, because even before his rebirth he was fed up with it, and now he himself wants to destroy all the monsters. The flower lady was offended that Musk ignored her proposal, but it seemed to him that with these proposals she just wanted to stop and calm him down. A new idea appeared in the girl's eyes. She wanted to find out if this monster could kill her, because otherwise, she would destroy this rotten world. The flower queen released her stems and grabbed onto the flying protagonist with them, completely wrapping his body. Musk created several additional pairs of paws, and in one fell swoop cut through the plant bonds surrounding him. The girl opened her mouth and wanted to draw a dangerous monster into herself with a stream of air, and the main character was about to be at her mouth. With particular caution, the Mistress of Flowers closed her mouth and hoped that the difficult battle was over. But at some point, horror appeared on the girl's face. She felt that the monster was behind her and was preparing a serious attack. During his life, Xiao Chu destroyed at least tens of thousands of giant monsters, but he was unable to kill this girl because he was unable to immediately find her real body. After an unsuccessful attack on the girl's head, the main character realized that her real body was hidden much lower, and perhaps it was in the back area. With the next attack, a green flash appeared in the area of the girl's back, which indicated that the hero had hit the target. However, Mask had to cut through many intertwined stems before getting to the heroine's real body. After a short struggle, the main character saw how a white-blue color shone in the interweaving of some of them, indicating the soul of the Mistress of Flowers. Part of the monster's mask was destroyed in this fight, but this no longer bothered him, since he was able to complete the task set for himself. Inside several tens of thousands of plant stems was the absolutely tiny body of a real girl. Not expecting a trick, the real girl received a direct blow right in the chest, but in response she only said that she did not expect another bug to appear. The main character did not have much time in his disposition, since his strength and stamina were running out. All the hero's actions slowed down noticeably, and he understood that he needed to take the very last step. Otherwise, he himself could become a victim of this fight. A fairly attractive girl looked into the eyes of the monster and told him that she liked him much more than Musk himself. The hero thought that his hit on the girl was not accurate, but she immediately reassured him, saying that she only wanted to spend the remaining energy. The Lady of Flowers leaned over the city, and her actions caused fear and fuss among the watching residents. The sweaty reporter lowered his face and concluded that they had lost this battle, and now the city was doomed to death. But the city was flooded with rain, and a bright flash appeared in the sky, reminiscent of a flying meteorite. The reporter bravely continued filming, and yet deep down he was afraid that it was a real nuclear bomb. The man concluded that government members decided to use dangerous weapons to rid the city of a natural disaster and return people to their usual lives. The Lady of Flowers told her killer that these people are so ruthless that they are ready to kill their savior, including themselves, for the sake of the future of the entire planet. However, before her death, the heroine promised to make everyone realize that the people in the government are bad, because they mocked Musk. The internal body of the Mistress of Flowers caught fire, and she herself waved her hands and began to wait for her hour of death. Huge numerous trees appeared on her hand, creating an ordinary deciduous forest. The meteorite flew closer and closer to the Earth's surface, and this increasingly raised panic and fear among ordinary spectators. When the sky rocket fell to the ground, it created a powerful explosion that turned the Flower Queen's subordinates into statues. The main character also had a hard time, because the shockwave streams rocked Mask from side to side, not allowing him to find balance. Having taken a stable position on the ground, Xiao Chu saw that glass had been blown out of the windows of the buildings, and a tangle of dead stems had formed on the ground. All citizens watching what was happening through the screen expected the imminent completion of this dangerous cataclysm. In the office where the screen stood, one of the men told the director that the creature that caused incredible energy fluctuations had disappeared, but the natural disaster had been successfully ended. People opened their mouths in surprise and began to wait for the final announcement of the end of this natural disaster. But they could not believe that a nuclear warhead did a better job than that monster. One of the men present pointed to the screen and asked everyone to watch the dangerous woman's main tree split into pieces, and rose flowers scattered throughout the city. One of the men advised his child not to touch them, since she might mutate into something similar, who would later be killed just as mercilessly. When the petals touched the girl's palms, her father realized that they did not pose any danger and did not threaten her life. The main character was sitting by a large stone and holding in his arms the same sister Chang Chang, with whom this global problem began. It was clear that the girl was unconscious because she had lost all her strength and was exhausted. When the Mistress of Flowers came to her senses, she was pleasantly surprised by the flying rose flowers, because she never knew that spring was so beautiful. When she tried to touch a rose petal that was flying through the air, the girl disintegrated into small green atoms. For the monster, the main mission of reincarnating a great demon was completed, after which he received a special reward in the form of a great demon core. Musk looked around after the sweet lady disappeared and found the remains of her energy heart in his hand. The main character realized that the young lady's heart was the heart of a great demon, which was given to him as a reward. Without thinking twice, Musk put his hand to his chest and absorbed this energetic heart. An energy circle appeared in the place where the main character had just been sitting, and Musk himself disappeared into another world. When the reporter showed on TV that the city had been cleared of vegetation, all observers felt an incredible sense of relief and joy. While crowds of people shouted their praises to the savior, the humanoid flowers turned back into people. Many who observed this phenomenon were so shocked that they could not say anything and simply continued to stand in a stupor. However, among the people there were those who realized that the bomb had killed both the plant and real people. In the large meeting hall of the heads of the Federation, the question arose about the correct use of weapons in a situation that claimed the lives of several dozen people. One of the chairmen said that getting rid of the root of the problem is not so easy, since there are disputes among the people over the use of nuclear bombs by the state. The man believed that the death of several thousand people was not enough to remove President Yahello from the main post. The secretary reminded everyone that they agreed to the use of nuclear weapons, but in addition to them, Musk must also bear responsibility for this. None of those present understood how this situation concerns Musk, because no one has seen him for a long time, and no one knows where he is at this time. The secretary said that it was precisely because Musk was not in that situation that he was to blame. Because if he had been in place, the government would not have had to pay such a price, and accidental victims could have been avoided. The gentleman added that Musk is entirely to blame for the occurrence of a natural disaster in the city of Dock, only because he does not care about the deaths of ordinary citizens. After the speech, almost everyone present was sure that what happened was directly related to Musk. When the chairman dispersed, Mr. President continued to worry about everything, but the secretary promised to control the situation to the very last detail. The president wanted them to have such a powerful pawn in their hands as Musk, or at least 1/10 of his strength, and then all external threats would be quite simple interference. When the president inquired about the preparation of a secret plan, subordinates explained that many samples cannot take on human form, but as soon as they do, their bodies will collapse, so there is not yet enough data for a successful experiment. The chief secretary was confident that the fusion of monster and man was quite possible, and this would be a future sensation in the field of science of their state. Both the president and the secretary wanted to be the one who would take the human species to unprecedented heights and be in the eyes of the people much better than Musk. When the experiment allows every person to gain such power, then everyone on Earth will gain incredible power, and the creators themselves will become gods. No map shows territories of up to 1,000,000 square kilometers where the fight against monsters is underway. In the very first years of humanity, this area consisted of Africa, South America, and Antarctica. But due to the movement of tectonic plates, this area has undergone changes. Before Musk led the army, there was no trace of man on the front line, only monsters that came out and from hidden areas. All these creatures not only lived in their own areas, they constantly attacked human settlements, which is why countless souls went to the next world. It was only when Musk appeared that humanity was able to re-enter these lands, as he mercilessly captured and changed the territories of demons until they became the front lines of humans and monsters. From tiny hopes of survival to unstoppable progress, all this became possible thanks to one godlike man. When the huge ball appeared in front of the fighters, they did not know how to correctly report to Captain Zhang about all the incidents and transferred this responsibility to each other. When the young girl was about to leave the port, all the soldiers stood at attention and silently waited for her appearance. Her last opponent was a level 7 demon, but she managed to clear the area in just half an hour, even though she is at the lower level, which is why she is called a genius. Captain Zhang Ling had quite charming appearance. Her eyes resembled sea sand. Her hair was dyed gray. As she stepped onto the ground, the young girl noticed the frightened expression on the face of one of the soldiers and asked him about it. The desperate man duly approached Captain Zhang and informed her that a disaster-level monster had appeared in their city. The girl was sure that her subordinates were able to neutralize the monster that had appeared and began to calmly wipe down her valiant weapon. The same fighter burst into tears and told Captain Zhang that her father, Commander Zhang, sacrificed himself and was killed. The girl sighed heavily, turned towards the forest and ordered her subordinates to go to the next secret area. All the soldiers had drops of sweat running down their faces, and they did not understand what their leader's reaction was, because she did not show a single emotion. The men looked at the captain standing alone and were sure that everything was fine with her, because in her life she controlled lightning and had a cold heart. One of the fighters composed a poem regarding the loss of Commander Zhang, but a female fighter immediately heard about it, and they quickly apologized to her. The speed at which secret areas are formed on the front line is the fastest, and it is only through the work of Captain Zhang's team that such a large number of secret areas can be controlled. The stronger Zhang's team, the more secret areas they must clear and neutralize all the monsters that exist there. When the girl fighter went into the portal, one of her subordinates asked to go with her, since they had not done this for a long time and would soon become a support group. The girl responded to this appeal with rudeness and took the offer as showing a low opinion of her and her actions. Frightened, the young man raised his hands and apologized to his commander, because he did not want to offend her with his statements. As a result of the whole situation, Captain Zhang went into the portal. That young fighter remained in the same place and watched her leave. When the girl fighter disappeared from the forest, all the fighters breathed a sigh of relief, and one of them said that the captain's aura was compared to the aura of a monster. The man who informed the commander about the death of the commander, after reflecting on the words of his comrades, said that their captain was more like an insensitive monster that did not know pain. Meanwhile, the captain went alone to the next secret area, where dead monsters were waiting for her, whom someone had already dealt with before her. Looking at the corpses of the terrible creatures, the girl realized that they were all killed with the same weapon, which means the attacker worked alone. Captain Zhang couldn't believe that this dangerous man also came to the secret area alone, without any support behind him. Hearing the roar of a monster from the darkness, the heroine turned around and saw an armed, muscular creature running. As it turned out, in addition to the captain, Mask also fought bravely in this secret area, and those corpses at the entrance were his work. The girl watched what was happening from the sidelines and was shocked that the low level of a fighter and high combat skills were quite comparable in one body. When the three attacking monsters struck the main character, the girl concluded that he had quite high endurance, because if he were an ordinary person, he would have died on the spot long ago. Captain Zhang decided to take matters into her own hands, charged her sword with energy and rushed towards the armed monsters. With her first blow, the girl wounded one of the terrible man whales in the chest, causing him to fall to the ground. The second whale decided to save its companion and released powerful streams of energy towards the girl, but they did not harm her in any way. Having made a calculated maneuver, Captain Zhang swung her weapon and instantly cut off the head of one of the monsters. Alone, the young girl managed to cope with 3 huge man whales, and she did not need the help of the main character. Musk himself stood a few meters from what happened, and was shocked by what he saw, that such a fragile girl was capable of such strong actions. Noticing Xiao Chu, Captain Zhang approached him and asked him what his name was, what team he was from, and why he was fighting these monsters alone in this secret area. When the main character took a few steps towards the interlocutor, he swayed back and fainted. Seeing the shame of Mask, the girl believed that he was worthy of her respect, and would turn out to be just another burden for her. Having waited for the right moment, when one of the fighters fainted, the man whales came out of the river and wanted to begin their active actions. The girl was quite tired of all these battles with monsters, but remembering her late father, Commander Zhang, she decided that she needed to act boldly and confidently. Grabbing her weapon, the captain created beams and streams of purple energy around it. Those 4 soldiers still continued to wait for the captain's return, and they did not even suspect what condition she was now in, whether she was even alive. One of the soldiers looked at his watch and informed the others that the captain should have already left the secret area, because clearing it does not require any high-level abilities. Suddenly, the portal lit up with a special color, and everyone present saw the appearance of Captain Zhang, on whose shoulders was an unconscious guy of a thin build. The soldiers surrounded their leader and asked her what kind of guy was in her hands and whether he was a monster. There are many military camps scattered across the front line, and the number of people in each of them does not exceed several thousand, and a quarter of the population are professionals in their field, while the rest have war-related work. Although they say that professionals have fully integrated into all spheres of society, those who specialize in treatment are still not enough for treatment, so ordinary doctors perform the duties. It was in such a medical institution that the main character found himself after a sudden fainting in a secret area. The doctor informed the captain that the man's organs were damaged, and not every professional would survive with such injuries. From the doctor, the young girl heard that the regeneration of the fighter's body made it possible to avoid irreversible consequences in a short time, and that the doctor had never met such people. The fighter's body emitted radiation, but the doctor did not attach any importance to this, since its amount was significantly small. The doctor turned to the girl and offered to hire high-level healers for the guy, but this is not necessary, since high regeneration will allow him to be discharged very soon. The girl thought about the doctor's words, when suddenly she heard a man's voice from the side, who told the doctor not to keep the fighter within the walls of the hospital unless necessary. This unknown person turned out to be an elderly man, the commander-in-chief of the 3rd military camp, whose name was La Genier. The captain jumped out of her seat and greeted her teacher, and the doctor opened his mouth in surprise at the arrival of the commander himself. When the protagonist was transferred to the infirmary, the commander informed the captain that the consequences of the natural disaster incident had finally ended on a good note. When the natural disaster was officially over, portraits of heroes appeared on all screens in the city, among which was Commander Zhang. The teacher told the young girl that her father died with honor, and she should be proud of his actions. The captain lowered her head and agreed with the commander, but it was clear that she was particularly homesick for time spent with her father. The Star City media wanted to interview the girl in order to make a release about the children of the victims, but the commander refused to allow him to do so. The teacher said that Father Zhang had made the right choice, and if he had ended up with him, he would have done the same. The man believed that the young girl should not blame herself for her father's death, because her only fault was that she fought with herself. After these words, the commander stood up and walked towards the doors. Finally, the man asked the captain for this guy to give her some advice on how to fight. As the commander sat next to the sick Xiao Chu, he noticed his strong sword, which only a special person could wield. Despite her vast combat experience, Captain Zhang did not understand the features of this sword, and asked the teacher to explain his words to her. The girl also asked her mentor if he knew who this guy really was, but he laughed and left the medical institution. The girl has a huge mystery about the main character, and she can't wait for him to wake up and tell many interesting facts about himself. After some time, the young guy came to his senses and opened his eyes, and then was horrified. The main character looked around him and glanced angrily at a girl unknown to him. Captain Jang felt something was wrong and grabbed the hero's sword, but the fighter himself disappeared from sight at that time. The girl did not understand what strange things were happening to this person, and drops of cold sweat rolled down her body. However, this was all the girl's imagination, and for the first time she was afraid of something like this, since the main character was still lying in the medical bed. Musk got out of bed and asked his new acquaintance what number this military camp was located at, but she was perplexed by his sharp question. The young guy realized that it was the beauty who pulled him out of the secret area where he lost consciousness. The young people met each other. The fighter introduced himself by his real name, and after that there was deathly silence between the couple. The silence was interrupted by a voice coming from the TV, which accused Musk of being irresponsible to the people. The newscaster said that in the event of such an incident, Musk needs to volunteer to be the first to deal with such a phenomenon, and then he can meet the expectations of the entire people. Musk remained silent in response to criticism from the television program, and the girl said that the government was damn tired of her, since they were shifting their blame onto the defenseless Musk. The girl giggled and said that the government is using Musk for its own purposes, since they can blame all existing problems on him, and then hang all the responsibility on him. Captain Jang turned to the main character and allowed him to remain within these walls until his wounds were healed, and if he did not pose a threat to the entire camp. In case Xiao became a problem for the camp, Captain Jang would still be able to break all of Xiao's bones one by one, despite his good abilities. The main character was surprised by the words of the self-confident girl, and he said that she could not break all his bones, since he was too tough for her. The captain nodded and told the protagonist that she was looking forward to the day when she could fight him. However, the girl could no longer waste time on the sick guy because she needed to clear the next secret area. Captain Zhang's subordinates arrived at the door of the chamber, inquiring about the young guy and his origins. No one present, including the young lady, understood why the commander wanted to personally treat this guy. The captain told her comrades that she only knew about this young guy's name. When the girl fighter left the room, her subordinates began to discuss Xiao Chu, because this name seemed most familiar to them. Looking after the departing captain, one of the men concluded that the accumulated rage of this young girl would soon burst out. The conversation between two men and a strange sound, and when the fighters turned around, they saw Xiao Chu appear. Captain Zhang's subordinates turned to the main character and asked about his well-being and future plans for movement. Chu intended to go to the secret area, but the young people tried to stop him, because his condition was unsuitable for this. The hero's heart merges with the great demon's heart, and therefore Chio's body craves the energy of life. As long as Mask destroys monsters, he can absorb their life energy and use it to heal his wounds. One of the fighters turned to the main character and asked if he had his own team, because without it, it was forbidden to enter secret areas. The other man was not against Xiao Qiu going to the secret area, since his help there could benefit Team Zhang. After Musk left, the same commander-in-chief found himself in the hospital premises, and this alarmed the fighters. One of those present commented to the officer that Xiao's solo trip to the secret area was against all the rules, but he quickly put the guy in his place. As the commander-in-chief, the man explained to his subordinates that it was he who decided to send Xiao Qiu, and there should be no contradictions in this decision. 4 strong guys stood up quietly and in a trembling voice informed the boss that they had no objections to his order. After clarifying the whole situation, the commander ordered the soldiers to split into 2 groups and go to the aid of Jiang Ling and this young man. Captain Zhang found herself in a secret location. Suddenly, she noticed 2 of her subordinates running after her, and she didn't understand why there were only 2 of them. The soldiers told the captain about the situation with the commander-in-chief and Xiao Qiu, and they began to suspect that this guy was directly related to the general. The young girl did not understand why Xiao wanted to go clean up the territories immediately after waking up. 2 soldiers said that they felt sorry for their comrades who went after the crazy guy, but the captain said that Xiao probably adheres to his clear rules and principles. Meanwhile, the guys who followed Xiao Qiu tried to find out from him how he was connected with the commander-in-chief, because he went against the rules for the sake of this campaign. The main character did not like this interrogation, and through clenched teeth he answered his interlocutors that he was in no way connected with the master. Having calmed down, the fighter told Xiao Qiu that their commander-in-chief is a legendary man because his vision allows him to see even in pitch darkness. According to the soldiers, the commander has already reached the 9th rank and can now attend all important meetings where his vote will be taken into account. Stopping midway, the man said that their commander-in-chief fought face-to-face with Musk himself, and this requires high respect. The main character listened to the soldier's words and remembered the battle that happened to him a long time ago. When Musk did not yet have any reputation, he led 3,000 people and went to the front line to fight monsters. Countless monsters constantly attacked the fighting people from the sky, from the ground, and even from the water. However, an army of people, despite all the pessimistic views, proved with their own blood that humanity is capable of existing on this earth. The surviving soldiers of the army grew up to become powerful professionals, after which they gathered even more people, forming a front line to fight the monsters. Xiao Chu and his companions approached the portal to go to the next secret area. The fighters decided to follow Chu in order to cover his back in case of danger, because no one's blood had flowed from their weapons for a long time. There was no need for outside help at all, since Xiao Chu could handle it just fine alone. The main character loves such secret areas that are simply teeming with monsters, because with them, Chu loses control of himself and simply kills mercilessly. Finding himself face to face with danger, Musk was transformed and once again became that terrible monster who had previously saved the city from the incident. This secret area was filled with monstrous monsters that looked like wolves with long horns. The main character was not afraid to face danger, because he had the best weapon in his hand. Approaching the predators, Xiao Chu whispered that he only had 3 minutes. As said, the hero's body has not yet fully recovered from the injuries inflicted by the nuclear bomb, so he can maintain the form of a monster for only 3 minutes. These 3 minutes were more than enough, and so Musk decided to act immediately. Dangerous monsters took off and ran towards the hero, but they were already met by streams of Violet Chu energy. Sharp horns flew from the heads of the monsters in different directions, and the heads themselves, separated from the body, fell to the ground. Thanks to his quick and skillful movements, Mask was able to easily deal with all the monsters that attacked him and lay their corpses on the ground. The bodies of the predators were covered with energy pollen, and instead of wolves, they turned out to be ordinary dogs. Later, the bodies of the monsters disappeared, and the energy pollen headed towards the main character. The greater demon's heart absorbs the life energy of these monsters to heal previous wounds. After such healing, the time during which the hero can maintain the monster form also increases. The companions were still standing at the portal and wanted to enter it to help the main character, but they were not sure that he was alive. The second man said that this guy cannot face someone strong, and he is probably now sitting at the portal and trembling with fear. When a confident Xiao Chu emerged from the portal, the soldiers closed their mouths and regretted all the words they had just said. From the speed of the guy's return, the fighters opened their mouths, because they could not understand how he managed to leave the secret area when the time limit had not yet expired. It suddenly dawned on one of the men that this young guy managed to fight the main boss of the secret area, and he confirmed his words. Musk told those present that most likely there was no boss there, because all the attacking monsters were very weak. The young guy handed the man sharp horns and asked him to create some arrows from it. Seeing what fell out of the monster, the men could not believe that the main character dealt with the monster faster than Captain Zhang, because her speed record is half an hour. The fighters concluded that in front of them was someone who was twice as strong as the captain. Musk did not listen to the empty words of the fighters and invited them to go to the next area. Also quickly, the main character dealt with all areas, and the soldiers did not even have time to blink an eye. When the captain and her crew appeared in the secret areas, they noticed that the area had already been cleared by some previous hero. In each area, Zhang's team came across traces of the same group, who overtook the girl and killed all the monsters. One of Zhang's subordinates said that they left the camp with Xiao Chu, and therefore it could not be him, because he could not clear the secret area so quickly. The man said that the only explanation left was that this was a very strong group that came from another military camp. The young girl was offended by the lack of success, but she reassured her subordinates by telling them that someone wanted to help them, and that was pretty good. Turning away from the fighters, the captain promised herself to return from the secret area and immediately find out which daredevil challenged her. After returning from the trip, each team reports on the results obtained during it and the things that happened to them. Teams earn valor points for their accomplishments, which can later be redeemed for various rewards at war camp, and the highest profile prizes include lessons with the commander-in-chief. Captain Zhang heard that one of the teams managed to clear 17 secret areas in just one day. The administrator of the military camp could not believe that 3 young men managed to clear so many areas, but the man proved this fact to him. The alarmed administrator asked the fighter to deliver evidence that it was they who cleared these areas, and not someone else. The soldiers opened the bag and poured out the bones, fangs, and valuables that remained from the dangerous creatures onto the table. Seeing all these objects, the administrator fell into horror, and drops of cold sweat began to flow down his face. The man told the soldiers that he was shocked by what happened, because even Captain Lin was not able to clear such a quantity in just one day. The bald man hugged Xiao Chu, and told the administrator that standing in front of him was a highly qualified professional in his field, appointed by the commander-in-chief himself. After thinking about what had happened, the administrator handed the task to the fighters and said that there was a 6th rank area in which 2 teams had already died. The man added that such superhuman abilities should help Xiao cope with this location in a couple of minutes, and he accepted this offer. Admiring Chu's success, the bald man informed everyone that this hero's strength was much higher than Captain Zhang's. The administrator trembled, changed his face, and told the desperate fighter that Captain Jiang was standing behind him. The young girl listened to all the words of her subordinates about Xiao Qiu's successes and was extremely dissatisfied with this. Seeing Captain Jiang, the bald man trembled in horror and asked her not to take his words to heart. The main character grabbed the piece of paper and wanted to report to the captain about his results of the cleanup. The girl crossed her arms over her chest offendedly and asked the young guy if he really cleared them himself, and he agreed. The captain said that Qiu was so confident even when he was bedridden, and now everything became clear. Musk realized that Captain Jiang was deeply offended by him, and he could only wait until the resentment went away on its own. The girl said that she had heard out of the corner of her ear that there was a difficult area of the 6th rank, and she decided to also take on this task. Desperate in her strength, the captain invited Xiao to find out which of them would be the first to kill the boss of the secret area. The girl took her subordinates and headed out of the building, leaving Qiu and his companions behind. The bald man thanked Xiao for igniting the captain's competitive spirit. After looking at the sheet with the 6th rank secret area, the main character finally understood why the system wanted to bring him here. The hero also remembered one important thing that happened on the front line immediately after the incident with the Great Demon. While the young man was peering at the task sheet, one of the fighters was examining his face and weapon. The soldier finally realized where he had seen this young guy before, and he was horrified by the memory. That same soldier came to the 3rd headquarters of the military camp and reported to the commander that Xiao Qiu was the same person who slaughtered an entire company in the city of Dahe. The commander tried to explain that this could only be a coincidence, since the cities are far enough from each other, and the guy simply could not have ended up here. The young fighter said that he had been following Xiao all day, and his hairstyle and body structure were exactly the same as what was in the photographs. This soldier was also confused by the sword, which was identical to the one the criminal in Deus City had. In fact, the man also did not understand how this man managed to get from the city, which is located 1,000 kilometers away, to the front line. The commander informed the subordinate that tomorrow, while leaving to clear the secret area, he would arrive there to investigate the situation. The fighter hoped that he did the right thing, because this young guy could turn out to be a really dangerous person. Xiao Qiu, Captain Jiang and her team went to the portal, where the soldiers decided that they would follow their leader. However, the young girl did not want anyone to be with her because they simply felt sorry for her after the news that 2 teams died there at once. The young people thought that their captain was afraid that they would become strong enough to claim her title. At some point, Captain Jiang turned to her subordinates and asked them to keep up with her, which they were incredibly happy about. Before entering the portal, the girl warned the men that this battle concerned only her and Xiao, so she forbade them to interfere in it. Everyone went into the portal except that soldier, who reported to the commander about his guesses because he had to wait for his arrival. Without waiting for the boss, the young guy stepped into the portal and followed his company, which was already in the secret area. The main character stretched out his hands, creating a special skill on them, which told him that the temperature and humidity of the location were normal, and the air was clean. The fighters who were previously with Xiao believed that such a narrow space would not lead to anything good, since in the event of a serious attack, they would have nowhere to retreat. All the soldiers present, who were equipped with body armor, looked into the distance, expecting an attack by someone terrible. Suddenly, blood-red eyes appeared at the end of the corridor, rapidly approaching the people. The soldiers from Team Jiang couldn't believe that they were in the 6th rank secret area and were about to be attacked by dangerous monsters. In the light, it turned out that these were more than 1,000 huge crocodiles, which had sharp spines on their backs. Without thinking twice, Captain Jiang grabbed the weapon and created a lightning effect with it, which she launched towards the monsters. Just one strong girl was able to kill such a large number of monsters without leaving a single trace of them. All the fighters admired the skills of their leader and rooted for her with all their might. Captain Jiang explained to her company that she managed to kill all the monsters due to the fact that they stupidly lined up in one line. The man put his hand on Xiao's shoulder and told him that it would be quite difficult to defeat the captain. The main character didn't really understand what exactly they were competing in. The number of killed monsters or bosses? The soldiers had been walking for more than 10 minutes, and the new wave of monsters was still not visible, as if the captain had destroyed them with one blow. The girl stopped to reflect on what happened in the past when 2 teams disappeared in this secret area. The captain did not understand why, after the disappearance of 2 teams, they still had not stumbled upon things or remains of bodies. The repaired Zhang reassured the captain and said that those teams died on the first wave because they were not as strong as her. Suddenly, a strange sound was heard from behind, and the captain asked those around her if they had heard anything. The frightened men hoped that this was not another wave of dangerous monsters. But the bald fighter said that the captain thought this strange sound. Suddenly, all 6 fighters were horrified and saw something strange and terrible in front of them. A terrible, eerie sound continued to be emitted throughout the entire location, from which energy streams flew in all directions. A huge large lizard emerged from the darkness, its eyes glowing with blood. The young people noticed that the monster blocked the entire passage, and they regretted that they had entered this secret area at all. The girl did not understand why her subordinates were so scared, because they should have more courage than she, a fragile girl. The fighter believed that the monster was not really that dangerous, but was only pretending to be with cheap tricks. The girl sharply raised her weapon and released streams of purple lightning at the monster. Xiao Chu stood to the side and modestly held his only weapon. The hero swung his sword and stabbed it sharply into the floor, causing small stones to scatter across the area. Following the stream of lightning, Captain Zhang struck the monster's head with a sharp blow, but unfortunately, this did not work. Looking back, the young girl noticed actions on the part of the young guy. From Chu's strike, the ground shook under his feet and began to split into many pieces. This was the most effective blow in this fight, as the ground under the monster began to collapse. Also thanks to that blow from Captain Zhang, the monster lost its balance and fell to the ground dead. However, the guy was sorry that he could not defeat all living beings in monster mode due to the fact that he was not here alone. The soldiers were incredibly grateful to Xiao Chu for killing this monster, because otherwise, they would have already been digested in his stomach. It turned out that under the ground of this monster, there was another similar creature, which the main character found out about in advance. The girl fighter realized that thanks to this guy, her subordinates and she remained alive, because she herself was focused only on the monster in front of her. Musk explained to those around him that from the vibrations of the earth, he realized that the monster was not alone in this place. It was still strange for the soldiers that such a weak player managed to hit the weak point of the monster located underground with one blow. The hero did not know how to explain to the company what had happened, because his abilities allow him to see and feel much more than others see and feel. Zhang's subordinates admired the actions of both fighters, because each of them managed to destroy one boss of this secret location with just one blow. The girl interrupted the man and said that these were not bosses. Otherwise, the chest with the reward would have already appeared in front of them, and there was no teleport gate either. The soldiers fell silent from what they heard, because they understood that a boss was waiting for them, the size of which would be much larger than these killed monsters. The girl climbed onto the dead creature and told her subordinates to keep up with her, since it was quite dangerous to walk here alone. The men lowered their sad faces to the floor and told the captain that they were causing her quite a lot of trouble. Without looking back, the girl reassured her subordinates, telling them that they were one big team. Everyone present in the secret area followed Xiao Chu and Captain Jian and saw an iron door in front of them. The commander decided that her soldiers would not enter this door, but would faithfully wait for their return. Chu and Captain Zhang approached the huge metal door and began to open its locks towards each other. After the opening, the couple went to a room full of dusty and dirty clouds. After an uncomfortable journey, Xiao and Lin came to a clean location where something terrible awaited them. Hearing light footsteps, the girl concluded that they would not fight a huge monster, but she was seriously mistaken. A huge muscular crocodile appeared in front of the fighters, whose height reached the very ceiling. The girl knew that the more humanoids resemble people, the more danger they pose. There was a sufficiently large distance between the fighters and the monster, allowing the fighters to think about all their actions in advance. The crocodile did not want to give the people much time to plan the future attack well enough, and began to engage them in battle. Captain Zhang told her companion to be as careful as possible around this creature, but in reality, it was she who needed to adhere to this advice. As always, Xiao calmly watched what was happening from the side, and concluded that the monster might decide to bite through the girl's spear, but would immediately be pierced through by it. But the monster was not so stupid, because he grabbed the energy spear with his huge paw. From the enormous force, the girl fell to the ground along with the spear, and was shocked by what was happening. The captain had the last option, and she took out a special weapon from her pocket. It looked like a pistol. The girl shot purple bullets into the crocodile's face from a prone position. When the bullets picked up speed in flight, they turned into a powerful energy stream that dealt a serious attack to the monster. From the resulting ceiling, the head and part of the body were burned and charred. The crocodile's body fell to the ground, and Captain Zhang lay next to it. The guy approached the girl and noted her attack for the worse, since the fighter seriously risks himself and his life. The girl explained to her interlocutor that nothing can be achieved in this life without risk, and he agreed with her with a grin. Looking back, the girl saw that on the charred body of the crocodile was the face of her familiar fighter. The main character asked if she knew him, and she replied that he was a 6th-rank fighter who had his own team, like her. It was clear to Xiao Chu and Ling that this comrade from the first missing team had randomly turned into this creature. Raising her head, the young lady saw at least 5 more of these monsters moving towards her. Without hesitation, the young guy and girl figured out their roles and divided the attacking monsters between them. When the crocodiles began an active attack, Chu and Lin immediately rushed into a retaliatory attack. Finding herself close to the monsters, Captain Zhang swung her sharp energy spear at them. The shockwave and bright flash knocked the crocodiles off their feet and threw them back. The girl single-handedly managed to cut off the limbs and heads of 3 nearby monsters. Having lost her vigilance, the captain failed to notice that one of the predators was preparing a brutal attack from behind. Noticing the danger, the girl fighter still managed to maneuver and use a spear to repel the attacker. It was this bridge that was brutally killed by her hands, because she released all the insides from it and cut the torso in half. The heroine again realized that the killed monsters in the past were people, but now their powers were much higher than before. Having finished the fight, the girl turned and looked at Xiao Chu, who was also actively trying to deal with the remaining monsters. The main character experienced exactly the same situation as the captain when a huge monster was behind him. However, the young guy immediately sensed something was wrong, and turning around, struck the crocodile in the chest. The entire room was filled with the corpses of monsters, which were cut into many small pieces by the fighters. After the battle, Captain Zhang informed her companion that these monsters were past professionals who had come here to clear out the secret area. The girl said that she still couldn't understand one thing, but her thought ended abruptly. Huge muscular creatures reappeared in the secret area and wanted to deal with the killers of their comrades. Religious pillars appeared in the room, and at that moment the terrible monsters fell to their knees and began to prey on them. Captain Zhang concluded that by their actions the crocodiles want to call someone for help. After the monsters prayed, the religious pillars glowed with bright purple energy. The young girl realized that something terrible was waiting for them, which they would have to cope with special difficulty. A pair of eyes appeared next to the main pillar, and the girl decided to quickly prevent this madness. She rushed towards the crocodiles sitting on her knees and with one blow plunged her spear into them. After the monsters died, the pair of eyes closed and the pillars disappeared from the secret area. After what happened, the girl turned to Chu and asked him who these creatures wanted to call, but he pretended that he did not know the answer to this question. In fact, the main character knew that it was a demonic god living in the void, and the only thing he looked at was Xiao. The main character and the demonic god can be called old acquaintances who met in the past. When Xiao Chu and Captain Zhang emerged from the portal, 4 loyal soldiers were waiting for them. The men surrounded their leader Jiang Ling and began asking her about the appearance and size of the main boss whom they had killed with Xiao. The girl did not want to answer the stupid questions of her subordinates and wanted to return to the camp to tell the commander about everything. The soldiers looked at each other and did not understand what had happened in the secret area. The sound of a cane was heard from the side and everyone saw the commander to whom the captain was going. This time the commander-in-chief was not alone, but behind him stood a horde of armed soldiers. One of the frightened members of Zhang's team asked the boss why he had come here with a law enforcement group. The commander bowed respectfully and asked the men not to worry, as this did not apply to them. After this, the boss approached Xiao Chu and whispered that this was directly related to him. The man closed his eyes and asked his interlocutor if it would be better to call him the Butcher from Days City. The captain's team and Lin herself were shocked by the words they heard, except for the fighter who reported to the commander-in-chief. Captain Zhang's soldiers stood up for their new comrade and informed the commander that this man was not capable of such cruel acts. The 4th fighter speaker came to the center of the conversation, informing everyone that with his observations, he had long ago proven that this was the same criminal. The disappointed captain turned to Xiao Chu and asked him if it was really him. The young guy sighed heavily and whispered to his new girlfriend that his name was really Xiao Chu from Dahi City. The informer was joyfully rejoicing that he had managed to discover this serious secret. The main character turned to the commander-in-chief with the question of whether they would arrest him. The man said that a person hiding from court should be immediately detained and taken to the redemption camp. However, this was only required by the federal ones, and his offense has nothing to do with the military camp in which he is located. The armed guards looked at the gentleman in bewilderment and did not understand what to do in this situation. The commander turned to the main character and said that he had analyzed all his actions, and in his place, he would have done the same. Coming as close as possible, the gentleman whispered that, most likely, he would have done even worse. According to the master, this time can be the beginning of prosperity, but only if all the fighters become like Xiao Chu. At this point, the question of Chu's guilt was closed, and the commander asked those present not to raise this topic again until returning to the military camp. Captain Zhang approached the master and asked him to ask him an indiscreet question. The fighters from Jiang Ling's team didn't care about what happened, because they were worried about what the captain and Xiao Chu encountered in the secret area. The girl fighter and the main character really looked quite nervous after visiting the secret area, and the soldiers wanted to quickly find out all the details. The girl asked the commander-in-chief if he knew anything about the altar at which the monsters prayed. The commander changed his face and whispered that this altar was a demonic god. The girl was horrified, because she had never heard before that all monsters have one god. The master explained to his student that on the front line, many teams are killing monsters in secret areas, but the creatures have not yet broken through their attacks, since the very source of all the monsters has not been killed. The man compared this source to the flow of a river, the mouth of which is constantly blocked by people, and as long as this source exists, the war with monsters will never end. Captain Zhang didn't understand anything at all, so she asked the teacher where this original source of all problems was. The commander-in-chief explained to her that the source of the secret areas was the demonic god, or in other words, the owner of the altar that the fighters saw. The monsters in the secret areas that the heroes spend so much effort clearing out are just grains of sand in the large system in which all the monsters live. In fact, the number of monster gods who died at the hands of people is much greater than it might seem, so the meaning of fighting them is quite great. The commander remained silent, and later told his assistant that there was only one person capable of killing the demonic god, and the girl immediately understood who he was talking about. Captain Zhang learned from her teacher that after she saw the altar, the monsters might rebel, and there would be a breakthrough. The appearance of the altar means that God is gradually awakening from his sleep, and in the event of a breakthrough, monsters will fall from all sides. The girl was scared, because even in the presence of Musk, the number of victims was difficult to count. And now in his absence, it is impossible to imagine how many would be killed. Convinced of the bad state of affairs, the commander ordered the student to no longer clear the secret areas from that day on, and asked her to deliver his letter to other military camps. As a caring commander, the man asked the girl to rest during these couple of days, while such an opportunity was provided before a serious battle. Through all her pride, Captain Zhang whispered that she was not tired of working, and that she liked to cope with all the difficulties. The commander did not even listen to the student's opinion, and ordered her to take Xiao Chu with her while she delivered letters to the camps. After revealing Xiao Chu's secret, the master decided that he should change his appearance and asked the fighters to prepare a mask for him. Captain Zhang went on a trip to the camps with her loyal soldiers and Xiao Chu. The main character was given a mask that hid part of his face, which had scars from battle wounds. The soldiers, who were sitting on the floor playing cards, asked Xiao how he felt about riding on the front line's signature armored train. The man was sure that their train was the most reliable vehicle on Earth that could travel anywhere. Judging by the situation, the bald man was the only one who was so positively disposed towards the main character. One of the soldiers was angry that the commander-in-chief sent them on this trip instead of conveying valuable information via communications. The fighter explained to his comrade that sending a secret document by train is much safer than via the internet or anywhere else. The second fighter continued to stand his ground, since he believed that the monsters would still not be able to listen to the radio through which secret information would be transmitted. Suddenly, a noise was heard outside the window, and throwing down their cards, the soldiers of Zhang's team rushed to the window of the branded train. Outside the train window, a military vehicle with 3 soldiers was moving at exactly 7 o'clock. Frightened by the strange people, a crew member climbed onto the roof of the train and grabbed a machine gun. The men and the captain concluded that due to the slowness of clearing the secret areas, the monsters broke out. If you do not clear the secret area within a certain time, the monsters will break its seal and break out, which is why 100 years ago a huge number of monsters appeared all over the world. The men in the car drove as quickly as possible and kept looking back. Suddenly, one of the soldiers grabbed his bow and aimed at the moving monsters. These monsters were the same wolves, whose huge eyes were filled with blood. The man, who had already killed about 30 monsters, was angry at the government because they pretended not to know anything about the monsters breaking through. The armed soldier shouted to those sitting in front of the car that he was out of arrows. After calling for help, the fighter looked back and realized that death awaited him, because a terrible monster was already flying towards him. An energy bullet flew from behind the desperate soldier, and upon contact with the monster, a powerful explosion was created. Looking around, the young guy realized that reinforcements had arrived, but he still did not know who it really was. It became known that the fire was coming from the machine gun of the armored train. After killing the creatures, a man from the team began shooting at the car's tires. The truck began to skid and the men had trouble controlling it. Suddenly, a flying monster appeared in the secret area, which resembled a huge hawk with a dragon's face. The flying creature landed a few meters away from the fallen soldier's car, which meant that Zhang's team saved the lives of these soldiers. The next shots from the armored train flew straight into the face of the dangerous creature. When the monster fell to the ground, the soldiers carefully climbed out of the car. The young fighters finally realized that the people from the armored train did not actually want to shoot at them, but only saved them from a huge predator. Captain Zhang gave the command to slow down the train, and her entire horde of men rushed to attack the new wave of monsters. One of the fighters shouted to the others not to get too close, as there were quite a lot of monsters. Thanks to Jiang Ling and Xiao Chu, heads and limbs from dire wolves scattered all over the location. Each soldier used his own special skills, which helped the main characters fight the creatures. The captain created streams of purple lightning on her spear and thereby cut the predators into several small pieces. Xiao used the energy blasts of his only weapon and also cut the predators into pieces while flying. The young soldier watching from the side opened his mouth in surprise, because he was shocked that people could have such skills and powers. After the battle, the commander ordered her subordinates to carry the wounded to the train, and to be as careful as possible when cleaning and assembling ingredients. The fighters, who lined up in one line, listened to the girl and went to complete her task. The wounded men who were in the car approached the main Zhang team and decided to get acquainted first. The fighters immediately understood where this team was coming from, and the bald man was surprised by this information. The soldiers explained that they had heard a lot about Captain Jang, that she had many nicknames and great superhuman strength. When the girl's eyes lit up with pride, one of the warriors interrupted her joy and said that Xiao Chu has as much strength as she. The man introduced Xiao Chu to his new comrades and began to praise all his past achievements. This was the first time the young people had heard of such a name, but they were sure that he would become as famous as Captain Jiang Ling. The girl inquired about the purpose of the soldiers' trip, and heard in response that they were clearing controlled territories, and there were initially 15 of them. The young guy believed that all the problems arose due to the monitoring of secret areas, because when so many breakthroughs occurred without their knowledge. These men were not the only team to leave the city due to government mistakes. The girl also learned that the formation of secret areas has become more frequent recently, and that most of the monsters have already broken out. Zhang's team had only reached the 5th military camp, and the situation was already getting out of control. In the 2nd military camp, the situation was no better, and about 30 teams left the city forever. One of the soldiers of the 2nd camp concluded that the teams that left decided to spend more time clearing the secret areas, and therefore did not return to the city. Armed with binoculars, the fighters saw that in the distance something was moving towards them. This was the signature armored train of Captain Jiang's team. The fighter immediately recognized this armored train, which was rushing from another military camp, and they began preparations to register the opening of the gate. At that moment, when the signalman gave orders to the train to slow down and stop for inspection, the unthinkable happened. The guy held red flags in his hands and looked ahead in horror. The train did not stop and came straight to the walls of the camp, stopping at the feet of the soldiers. The train's upper emergency hatch opened and a bloodied man climbed out. The soldiers who met the train immediately recognized this man, calling him a professional. The man was lying on the ground and had a bloody dagger in his hand. The man rose to his feet and instantly turned into a huge yellow insect. It turned out that the train cars were filled with nasty flying insects. The men near the building were unarmed, and they had to take the blow first. Seeing the invasion of these creatures, a young guy who had a machine gun that fired several hundred rounds per second came to the aid of the guards. The insects fell to the ground one after another and splashed blood in different directions. There was a wild commotion over the roofs of the 2nd military camp because of these huge flying monsters. Separate buildings were engulfed in flames due to collisions with some insects. It was not clear why the stranger caused this chaos and dressed himself in a monster costume. It turned out that it was a completely different train, and the real branded armored train, led by the captain, was just approaching the military camp. One of the soldiers was frightened by what was happening around him and began to ask the boss about the monsters. The girl fighter, as well as her subordinates, wanted to believe that the stupidity of the monsters would not allow them to attack defenseless people. Deep down, the girl feared that a breakthrough from monsters could lead to the death of even 9th rank professionals. When the train began to approach the 2nd military camp, the captain saw clouds of smoke in the window. Everyone on the train was shocked by what they saw, because they did not understand what was happening in the 2nd camp. The soldiers of the 2nd camp radioed to the approaching train that they had been attacked by monsters and were in a state of emergency. After reporting the danger of the situation, the soldiers of the 2nd camp asked to come to the rescue. One of the soldiers on the armored train told those present that the commander-in-chief of the 2nd camp was killed in that fierce battle and the 2nd military camp fell. Despite the seriousness of the situation, the anxious captain still decided to go to the 2nd military camp. The bald man tried to stop her from making a rash decision because the camp had already fallen anyway. The girl explained to her subordinate that they were going there to save the survivors. One of the young fighters was furious with what was happening, as he believed that in Musk's time everything was different and calmer. The other guy chuckled at him, saying that the monsters must have found out that Mask was missing from this city. The bald man decided that now was the time to lighten the mood, and said a fun fact. The soldier drew the attention of those around him that Xiao Li was now also wearing a mask, and looked very similar to Mask. All the men began to mock the main character, and Musk himself patiently listened to their statements. Despite the jokes, one of the fighters still hit the nail on the head when he said that Musk was actually working undercover, and was now next to them. Having suffered the shame of jokes, the main character opened his mouth and made it clear to those around him that he really was Musk. All the employees who were in the carriage approached the mask and expressed special respect to him, but Captain Zhang thought that these were all fairy tales. After all the conversations, the fighter girl turned to Xiao and said that very soon they would find out whether he lived up to this name or not. As the train approached the 2nd camp, the captain looked out the window and saw an infestation of insects. Nevertheless, a large group of people managed to escape from the terrible monsters and desperately called for help from the people from the signature train. The survivors were armed with the first objects they found, and angry insects flew over their heads. When Captain Zhang's team exited the train cars, all the insects immediately cast their gaze in their direction. Without thinking twice, the main girl of the team took out her special pistol and shot energy bullets at the colony of monsters. When the energy streams reached the bodies of the insects, they immediately cut them into pieces. The captain created energy lightning on her spear and launched it at the remaining monsters with all her might. The blow with the spear was completely accurate and well-aimed, because in flight it was able to cut apart quite a lot of insects. Thanks to a bright flash, many insect bodies burned alive and fell to the ground. All the surviving people sat down on the ground and thanked Captain Zhang for their timely rescue. One of the group that escaped from the camp persistently recommended that the girl not go to the second camp, since even the commander himself died there. The one who killed the camp commander was humanoid in appearance and over 2 meters tall. The man grabbed his weapon, stood up, and asked my lady not to commit suicide. Captain Zhang Ling did not listen to the soldier's words and pointed his sharp spear in his direction, which made the bald man immediately feel fear for this man. The commander informed her subordinates that these fighters were prisoners of the camp who escaped. Judging by the reaction of the escaped trio, the girl hit the nail on the head. The men tried to justify themselves in the eyes of the heroes, explaining that none of this mattered. Looking around, the girl fighter concluded that these escaped prisoners killed the professionals who were accompanying the civilians. The escapees had a whole arsenal of weapons in their hands, but they didn't even know how to hold them correctly. According to the main woman, one of the prisoners was wounded on the ear during a fight with the one they brutally killed. The men looked at each other sharply and immediately rushed towards Team Zhang, holding various types of weapons in their hands. With one flick of her spear, Captain Zhang decapitated the bodies of the escaped prisoners. One of the prisoners made the right decision and ran in the opposite direction. He wanted to take civilians hostage in order to survive and not be killed by the hands of a fragile girl. This prisoner also suffered a special fate. His head, separated from his body, rolled at the feet of the civilian population. One of the captain's team told the girl that he did not remember that there were such prisoners in the camp. The cowardly guy approached the lady and asked if there would be a trip to the second camp, but she replied that it was too risky to go there now. The operator of the armored train informed others that their fryer had stopped working because they were constantly traveling at full speed. Unexpectedly for everyone, from the crowd of civilians, a young girl offered her help in working with the mechanisms. A moment later, the fryer started working again, and black smoke came out of the chimney. Everyone present opened their mouths in surprise that a very young girl could handle the heavy mechanism so easily and quickly. Captain Zhang turned to the student and asked her name. The young girl put her hand to her head and introduced herself as Evelyn, and also said that she dreams of becoming the best mechanic in the world. After the decision was made to leave Camp 2, everyone began discussing their next destinations and deciding between Camps 4 and 5. One of the smart people on the team explained to the others that visiting the 4th camp was too risky, so all the survivors passed through the 2nd camp to get to the 4th. Everyone unanimously decided that the trip should be to the 5th camp, but the main character insisted that they should go to the 4th. In addition, Evelyn said that the armored train's fuel was only enough for 2 days of travel, and it simply wasn't enough to get to the 5th camp, which was the furthest away. With the help of young mechanic Evelyn, the armored train continued on its way again. Captain Zhang and her crew couldn't afford to run out of fuel, especially since they were responsible for the lives of so many people. Therefore, the entire team had no choice but to take their chances and go to Military Camp 4, as Xiao Chu had advised. The soldiers turned to the main character and asked why he wanted to go to the 4th camp. Captain Zhang began to suspect the hero of understatement and asked him how he could know about the remaining fuel in advance. According to Musk's past memories, it was the camp under the letter I that fell first, and then many control points stopped communicating with the outside world. Despite the fact that Musk was in a hurry as best he could, he still failed to save people, because they had already been destroyed and turned into the abodes of monsters. The girl approached Xiao Chu and reminded him that Mask was personally arrested by that terrible man, and asked him about him. The man finally stopped hiding his real identity and told his interlocutor that the man was too righteous. At this time, in the camps, flying monsters gradually destroyed civilians. The main monster sat calmly on a stone and read a newspaper, which contained news of the daily life of certain corners of humanity. The dangerous creature wanted to deal with every person on this planet. The flying monster strained its wings and flew to other territories to destroy people. All the small insects finished massacring people and flew after their commander. The civilians who were in the branded train trembled with fear and clutched their children to their chests. One of the soldiers turned to these people and said that they would not encounter monsters as they were being led by a professional guide. The fighter finished his speech, looking out the window and saw black smoke remaining from the fire of the 2nd camp. Civilian men intervened in the soldiers' thoughts and reported that this was not smoke, but an invasion of monsters. Near the train, there really was an infinite number of insects, at the head of which was a human-sized individual. The bald man immediately turned to Captain Zhang, but she clearly saw what was happening with her own eyes. Inside herself, the girl fighter doubted her abilities, since this huge individual could destroy the commander of the 2nd camp. There was real horror in the girl's eyes, and first of all, she was worried about her life, and not about the safe delivery of civilians. The goal of a large insect was the destruction of all humanity. The monster decided to show his strength and grabbed the first insect he came across and tore off its limb. The giant threw away the body of his subordinate and threw his paw at the armored train. The impact caused the train to go off the track and almost collapse. There was real chaos inside the carriages. People were falling from side to side and screaming. Young technician Evelyn fell through a window and ended up outside the train. The captain and Xiao Chu helped the young girl to her feet and found themselves outside. The main character and the girl fighter tried to put a huge car on wheels, despite the fact that they were in danger. The young girl was surprised that two timid people could so easily lift a train weighing more than 10,000 tons. All the citizens and soldiers who were inside the train breathed a sigh of relief and began to hug each other. When the team got out of the train, the commander ordered all his subordinates to guard the train so that it would not be captured by monsters. Even the young mechanic had a task, because the mistress ordered her to repair all the damaged wheels and check the train for any malfunctions before setting off further. At such a dangerous moment, the lives of civilians mean little, but the team could not possibly lose the armored train. Only by saving the strong first do fighters have a chance for a great future. Jiang Ling created streams of energy lightning on her spear and met the first wave of insects. Captain Zhang was not afraid to fly towards dangerous monsters and cut them into small pieces. The captain's subordinates doubted that she was only 6th rank, because the forces were for a significantly higher rank. One of the soldiers clarified that even an 8th rank professional could not do something like this with such ease. The bald man said that soon the captain's rank would indeed change, since she deserved more. 3 additional wings appeared on the back of the main insect. The civilian hero pointed out this creature, and informed the military that it was he who killed the commander-in-chief. Xiao Qiu and Jiang Ling grabbed their weapons and decided to attack the main insect. The monster calmly stood aside and folded his hands on his chest, because none of their attacks harmed him. In fact, the main monster used the afterimage skill and was already away from her at that time. While the girl was pondering the power of the creature, she suddenly received a kick and found herself on the ground. The anxious soldiers became nervous and began to shout for the captain, but she was not distracted by their call. The terrifying, muscular monster was flying straight towards her to deliver the fatal blow. The insect created a stream of special skill in her hand, but the girl managed to come to her senses and repel this attack. The creature's sharp hand was a few centimeters from the heroine's eyes. Xiao Qiu still managed to react and intervene in what was happening, thereby saving the life of Captain Jiang Ling. From the powerful blow of the main character, the monster flew back several meters and cut through many trees with its flight. The girl fighter was shocked by such strength and power of the young and fragile guy. Xiao Qiu ordered his companion to deal with the remaining monsters, and he himself decided to take care of the safety of the main individual. The guy went to attack a large insect, and the girl, following him with her gaze, whispered to him not to dare to die. When the huge monster landed on his feet, he immediately saw the main character walking towards him. Sniffing, the large individual told the fighter that it smelled like the same monsters as him. Xiao Qiu turned into the image of a terrible monster and told the insect that now he would fight him on equal terms. As soon as Xiao Qiu turned into a monster, the insect's heart flashed with an unusual experience. Since the creatures had already met each other before, the insect decided not to waste time and attack first in order to increase all chances of survival. With all its might, the predator dealt a direct blow to Xiao Qiu's face. The main character used a special skill and cut the creature's body into pieces with one blow. Xiao defeated the monster and received the skill of the god of the changing mind as a reward. And the second stage of the evolution of the monster's blade began, and he received new abilities. The blade can now transform into a flock of ravens that will rain down on enemies, sucking all the blood out of them. The main character was glad that his only weapon became stronger and increased its level. The devoted soldier reported to the captain that they had killed all the flying insects, and none of the people on the armored train had been hurt. The men did not understand where Xiao Qiu was, and the bald fighter was sure that he would not sacrifice himself for everyone. The girl began to worry about her comrade, but the cowardly soldier joyfully shouted that he saw Qiu return. The victorious protagonist walked with a calm gait between the lush trees. The man approached the hero and asked him about the fight, but he only replied that he managed to kill the boss. The man got nervous and concluded that this young guy's rank was higher than 7th, since that monster had exactly that rank. After defeating the monsters on the train, they began to provide first aid to all the victims. Captain Jiang Ling and Mask were left alone, and the girl thanked him for saving her, but it was to no avail. The speed at which the soldier's strength increases defied the logic of a girl fighter, because only the legendary Mask had done this before. The conversation between the two experienced fighters was interrupted by the appearance of a young mechanic, who reported that radio communication with all the camps had suddenly been cut off. The girl added that she thinks that the problem is definitely not in their equipment. The mechanic had a feeling that something was trying to jam their signal from the outside, so they could not send and receive a message from the outside world. It was clear that the armored train was isolated from the environment, and this greatly alarmed Qiu. The main character has received a new task, according to which he needs to destroy a new influx of monsters that will cover the entire territory. The team received a radio message from Camp 4, which was strange because yesterday the radio equipment really couldn't pick up a signal with them. The mechanic went to the radio and reported to Camp 4 her situation and her location. The tower of the 4th military camp received messages from the train and told them to head to their camp to protect themselves. The young girl turned to the captain and asked her to make a decision about sending the train to the 4th camp, where they could replenish their fuel supplies. The military was determined that now they would go to a quiet place where they could have a good rest and civilians could start life with a clean slate. Suddenly, the radio began to shake again, and a warning message was issued from it, warning the train not to trust messages from the 4th camp. Everyone present fell into a stupor from what they heard, because, as reported, the 4th camp had long been ruled by monsters. The young girl could not understand how monsters without intelligence were able to use radio equipment and imitate human speech. There had been too many cases of monsters imitating humans before, such as the ones in the sanctuary and that huge humanoid insect. The captain grabbed the radio and contacted the other camps, so that they explained the entire situation with the 4th camp. The radio reported that 2 days ago, there was a breakthrough of monsters who were strong and smart enough to deceive the survivors. Survivors reported that 3 8th-rank professionals were killed in this battle, and the commander of their military camp was also killed. People passed on their coordinates, where they set up a temporary shelter, and again asked not to trust the messages of the 4th camp. It was not clear which of the messages to trust, because it is quite possible that the message about traps is transmitted by intellectual monsters. The stupid soldiers suggested that the captain go to a temporary shelter, but the girl was sure that the 4th camp could not be captured so easily. All the civilian men were of the same opinion that the temporary shelter was a trap, and the main city of the 4th camp did not actually contain monsters. The captain listened to everyone's opinion and was at a crossroads. She did not know what decision to make. After everyone had spoken, the girl fighter turned to Xiao Chu and asked his opinion on the current situation. The man stood up proudly and informed everyone that they should not go to either of these 2 places because they were both traps. The reason why the front line fell so quickly in Xiao's past life was because some monsters had intelligence and cunning. Led by the monsters, they came to the point where the monsters were able to deceive people into enslaving them, turning them into devoted slaves. According to the protagonist's memories, the 4th military camp never fell at the very beginning, and it was supposed to hold out until humanity struck back. Apparently, due to the absence of mask in this world, control over the demonic gods decreased, and this led to a large-scale war that did not exist in the previous life. As soon as the train reached the indicated coordinates, the heroes actually saw a camp built by the surviving people. Those who came out to meet the arriving savior soldiers were precisely the survivors of the 4th camp. But there was one problem with the whole situation. They had already become tame dogs of the monsters, which forced them to pretend to be ordinary people in order to lure other troops to them. However, in the past, even before they attacked, Xiao Chu killed everyone. Although the fighters managed to clear the entire camp, when only a quarter of the members of Evelyn's group arrived, they were immediately killed by the enemy. It was unclear what was actually happening in the 4th camp, since they completely turned off radio stations and other communication systems. The girl turned to her companion and asked him if the monsters had really managed to grow smarter before our eyes and acquire human intelligence, and immediately received a positive answer. Unlike other gods, this one decided to kill humanity with its own weapons, using the mind and intelligence of ordinary people. It is extremely difficult to detect among ordinary people. In his previous life, Xiao Qiu fought to the death with the monster gods in the void, but this one never showed his true form. The captain noticed a powerful sword on the young guy, and learned that it was a gift from his friend. In fact, the main character killed his friend when he was suffering from an incurable disease. Suddenly, one of the military men called Captain Jiang Ling and asked him to look outside. Armed with binoculars, the captain saw a large horde of huge monsters, which were of different types and different sizes. Several thousand monsters were moving towards the 4th camp, as was the armored train. Armored vehicles were moving towards the monsters, trying to knock them out of the way with powerful fire. The captain thought that this was a tactic of the monsters to lure them into a trap. When the train stopped, the bald man shouted to those in the car that he was glad to have those on their side. When the man approached the car, the armed soldiers drew their weapons and forbade him to move. Captain Jiang and her entourage were frightened by what was happening, because there was something incomprehensible and terrible. A young guy emerged from the car with a huge sword over his shoulders. The bald man wanted to discuss an incomprehensible moment with this guy, but he immediately grabbed his weapon. That guy decided that traitors were standing in front of him, since they arrived from the same side as those monsters who didn't even touch them. Unexpectedly for everyone, the captain's teacher appeared from the side and asked the young guy to put away his knife. The man no longer looked so positive because his entire body was covered with deep wounds and blood. The 1st military camp is a quarantine zone for those suspected of treason. Many soldiers deserted to join this camp, but they were all locked up here since there is no quick way to identify the traitors. The girl and her entourage were closed with bars, and the commander-in-chief asked her not to worry about the camps, because everyone who could was evacuated to this camp. The girl learned from the teacher that they left traps to cause certain difficulties for the monsters. On his way, the commander also encountered traitors who stabbed him right in the back using deception. The man asked his old acquaintances not to be angry with him because of the temporary ban, since this is a normal formality in safety. Captain Zhang wanted to clarify with the teacher why the monsters gained intelligence, because of this, losses on the front line increased significantly. The man explained that the changes are due to the monster gods, who are the source of all these creatures. Captain Zhang and her team will be under observation for a few more days, and once the military camp realizes that they are okay, they will be assigned a new mission. The fighter's isolation cell was not bad enough, as it was equipped with a TV and 2 soft beds. The main character looked at the military map and concluded that there is a dormant volcano near this camp. It was reported on TV that due to a certain influx of monsters, the government delivered the 5th batch of supplies to the front, and the Federation members themselves decided to go to clean up the territory. Members of the Federation publicly explained to everyone that the situation is completely under their control, and the Federation is quite prepared for these events. The girl was angry that the government was showing off in front of the cameras, but she liked that they were going to the front line with rank 8 skills. Unexpectedly for the main characters, an order was received that their quarantine was lifted, and they would be appointed squadron commanders on the front line. The soldiers were returned their weapons and equipment and asked to go to their duty station today. The situation on the front line has deteriorated so much that the government is sending there those whose loyalty they have not yet been convinced of. The main character turned to the guard and asked him to find Evelyn, who would go with him. Captain Zhang Ling and Mask were taken to the squad so that they could at least get to know them and become one team. There will be 100 people under the command of the heroes, but none of them have outstanding abilities. The girl did not understand why this circus was invented, because there is no use for the prisoners of the redemption camp, who have 0 morals and complete disregard for all orders. The man decided to console the captain and handed her a box with walkie-talkies so that she could communicate with subordinates within a radius of 3 kilometers. The guard also informed the main characters that they have special privileges using the map. They can choose the place where they want to go. The man learns that the situation in the northwest is very negative. It was in that place that the monsters concentrated their attacks, so he recommended choosing another place. The main character interrupted the man and said that they would go to this place. The guard began to shout, saying that this was the most dangerous zone, since 3 sides of its defense had fallen. Only the front line continued to hold out with its last strength. In addition to the man's anger, Xiao Qiu demanded 20 military maps of the given territory from him as payment for such a serious choice. The camp representative wanted to stop the protagonist, but at that moment Captain Zhang also agreed to go to that dangerous place. The girl fighter immediately understood why her comrade did this, because he wants to create hopeless conditions for the criminals of the camp so that they unquestioningly carry out all orders. However, she believed that this was all too risky, because the prisoners could fall into despair, and, in addition to the monsters, the commanders would need to deal with their blues. The main character was confident in his abilities and tried to make Captain Zhang positive, and near them young Evelyn was already ready. After the elders talked, the mechanic approached Xiao Chu and tried to dissuade him from such a serious act, but he decided that they should try. The main character handed Evelyn a piece of paper and ordered her to go to points on the map and install explosive devices there. The prisoners' looks were quite good, and Xiao, calling them scum, thanked them for this. One of the prisoners grabbed his weapon and began to threaten his leader. The man aimed at Qiu's head and told him to be calm since they had already played along with him in the past at the camp. The prisoner wanted to let the main character go without a bullet in his head, but in return he offered entertainment in the form of those beautiful ladies who stood behind him. Without thinking twice, the captain approached the prisoner and pointed a lightning spear in his direction, and he trembled with fear. The girl pierced the attacker's chest and he ran back, choking on blood. The same prisoners did not know how to behave in such a difficult situation. Captain Zhang created streams of purple lightning around herself and warned the others to be quiet. The main character added that in case of disobedience, every prisoner will die at his hands. Xiao also warned the men not to think about escaping, since 3 sides of the world are surrounded by monsters, and one is guarded by a powerful army. Hearing strange sounds, young Evelyn grabbed her binoculars and looked into the distance. The girl saw powerful explosions and columns of military equipment, and how one huge monster bit off the head of one of the military. Frightened, Evelyn informed those around her that the defense had fallen under the onslaught of monsters, and they were now completely surrounded. The prisoners became agitated and shouted at Xiao Qiu not to drag them along to certain death. The hero showed joy to the prisoners and said that now they have no chance of escaping, so they will fight with him against the monsters. Only by following orders can all men survive, creating a miracle with their own hands. The main character came to the most important stage of preparation for battle, and asked the prisoners to divide into groups of 10 people, and allowed each group to report and obey only him. The men obeyed and divided into teams, each of which was given a walkie-talkie, which they were told to keep until their death. Young Evelyn reported to the commander that she had figured out how to plant explosive devices, and would soon go on a mission group. Suddenly, the hero's radio began to shake, and Group B, who had gone to the northwest, reported to him that they had encountered a bunch of monsters and would not be able to hold them off until the end. Xiao ordered them to immediately retreat back and report this to the people in other camps so that they could send a plane to evacuate them. Alarmed, Xiao Qiu concentrated his groups and ordered them to use tactical grenades. The prisoners had no time to escape, since a few meters away from them there were huge monsters that looked like rhinoceroses. It turned out that the commander gave the wrong command to a group of prisoners and sent them to the place where the monsters were located. When the yellow fighters approached the river to escape the monsters, they saw a new wave that looked like skeletons. The men were not sure that these were monsters, since they looked quite calm. As a result, the prisoners did not figure out who it really was and simply threw grenades at them. Many explosions occurred, but not a single creature was harmed by them, and they continued to attack. After all the explosions, the monsters discovered that the people had fled the detection site and gone in an unknown direction, which made them very angry. Xiao continued to command the group and ordered them to use remote mines a couple of seconds after hiding. Each group of prisoners did not remain without the attention of the commander and constantly received his precise instructions. As a result, two groups of criminals ran towards each other, followed by waves of monsters. Other groups watched what was happening and did not know whether they would survive this battle or not. The prisoners did not understand how Xiao Qiu could miscalculate the place where they should all meet, because this was supposed to be the safest place in the secret area. One of the prisoners, who had a stupid face, told his comrades that they must follow the commander's orders in order to stay alive. The fighters approached the cliff, and at Xiao's command they threw grenades towards the monsters, and this was quite effective. As soon as the groups from the redemption camp completed their mission, they returned to the top, not in full strength, but in 2s and 3s. After which, according to Xiao Qiu's plan, the explosive devices that were placed near the volcano were detonated by Captain Zhang. A powerful explosion led to the fact that the rotor of the extinct volcano was completely destroyed, and at the same moment, a large amount of water gushed out from there. In an instant, the monsters that were near the volcano were swallowed up by the unstoppable flow of water. The prisoners, Xiao, Evelyn, and the commanders were happy with this outcome of events, and Xiao Qiu's ingenious miscalculation of all the nuances. Just as the generals at headquarters were shocked by the speed and capture of the front line by the monsters, they received news that the main enemy forces in the northwest had been successfully contained. And when the government found out that it was a group of criminals, they were even more shocked. But still, they decided to attribute this victory to a proxy of the state who did not contribute anything throughout the entire battle. But still, the government decided to send a rescue plane to pick up the prisoners who were at the volcano, and when they thought that their sentences would be removed or reduced, they found themselves behind bars again. Later, the prisoners learned that no one appreciated their services, which provoked riots in the camp. Armed soldiers killed all the rebels for the coup attempt. In the first military camp of the commander-in-chief's residence, rumors began that some unrest had occurred in the prison. The army commander said the killing of the prisoners was inevitable because their return to freedom could bring more problems. The Federation secretary was angry about what was happening and hoped that this would not happen again in the future. The commander asked the man that, according to rumors, he had arrived with a special weapon. The chairman said that everything is going according to plan, because this weapon is already on the front line and is actively fighting with monsters. Indeed, these weapons were on the front line in the hands of professional specialists. When the professionals were ready to repel the attacks of a wave of monsters, one of the soldiers announced that special support had arrived and they needed to leave their positions. In the secret area, a formation of huge, muscular fighters, brought by specialists, appeared on the front line. After checking the equipment, specialists allowed each professional to go to the front line. Before the fight, each fighter injected a special injection into his shoulder, which was supposed to somehow help in the fight. Indeed, the injection produced a special effect, instantly increasing the muscles of the fighters. The men ran towards the monsters, and there was not a drop of fear in their eyes. Ordinary soldiers were surprised that such strong people came to support them. From the hands of each fighter, limbs, heads, and liters of blood from killed monsters flew in all directions. The army of muscular soldiers was surrounded by the largest specimens of monsters, but they could not even get close to the fighters. The main soldier asked the specialist to stop this madness, since very soon these crazy fighters would die. The man explained to the young soldier that this is the only way these men can show their strength and power, and they are not afraid of any murder. At some point, one of the fighters took off his protective helmet, and underneath it was the face of a real monster, which had red eyes and a long tongue. All the surrounding monsters immediately sensed a similar aura and stopped their attack for a while. The fighter took the second injection and was ready to destroy everyone who crossed his path. The monster soldier's skull glowed and enlarged veins popped out all over his body. Only a small group of fighters was able to repel the influx of huge monsters. The experts rejoiced most of all at their success, since this great experiment could bring them special results. It turned out that these monster fighters were created through surgery and drugs. The monsters' hearts were beating incredibly, and they were in a hurry to immediately go to the next line of defense to shed blood from all the creatures. Experts wanted to conduct tests on the body of these powerful fighters, but suddenly they saw an incredibly huge creature moving towards them from the side. It was not clear to the fighter where this overgrown man came from, but the specialist, through fear, explained to him that this monster consists of the corpses of killed monsters. Without understanding the whole situation, the energy fighter went to attack this monster. When the warrior attacked the huge creature, he was immediately grabbed by his hand. Judging by the external data, the specialist discovered that it was an 8th or even 9th level monster, since it certainly had fast reflexes. The captured fighter believed that this big monster was just trash, and he himself would definitely be able to survive. Trying to get out of the creature's clutches, the fighter administered another injection, and his uniform was torn into several pieces, and his body became simply huge. But this did not bring any results, as soon the huge hands of the monsters crushed the fighter into mush. The camp commander received a message about this rank 9 monster and immediately ran to warn the other camps. Looking out the window, the camp commander saw that there were quite a lot of these rank 9 monsters, and they were near the camp. The tired general came to the chairman and began to complain about the endless number of natural disasters. The commander believed that all the chaos on the front line was happening because Musk was not there. The chairman agreed that Musk should be punished accordingly for the situation on the front line. The chairman of the Federation asked the commander how many professionals of the 7th rank and above the army currently has. The commander said that in his army there are about 40 people of similar ranks and 6 professionals of the 9th rank. After the report, the chairman expressed the opinion that all these professionals should be able to withstand the attacks of monsters, since they have a large amount of cannon fodder. Despite his high rank, the chairman of the Federation asked the commander not to consider him part of the army, because he arrived to observe the fighting. The man ordered the commander to collect all the cannon fodder and send it to the front line, after which he would use nuclear weapons and get rid of all the creatures. The representative did not care about the death of ordinary soldiers, because he wanted high-ranking professionals not to suffer in any way in this cataclysm. Initially, the use of nuclear weapons required special permission from the central government of the City of Stars. But now that the Federation representative himself has agreed, no problems should arise. The commander agreed with the representative and promised to organize everything soon. Bloody battles continued to be fought on the front line, and there was turmoil among the soldiers. Arriving at the place where there were 9th rank monsters, Xiao Qiu immediately sensed the demonic god and changeable mind in them. The young soldier wanted to attack the monsters with 2 sharp swords, because he was noticeably very afraid of this creature. The huge monster stretched out his hand and crushed this poor man with a slight movement. In addition to large black monsters, large centipedes and various spiders appeared in the secret area. In front of Captain Zhang, a monster that looked like a wolf appeared again, and she immediately used the lightning effect. The girl turned to Xiao Qiu and asked him how to turn the situation in their favor. The main character said that he has a special plan, but he needs an hour to prepare. The girl and the hero were surrounded by monsters, and they realized that they did not have time at their disposal to make any preparations. The captain began to repel the attacks with everything she had, and was already ready for a terrible death. The girl decided to go to the underworld and talk privately with her father about past childhood grievances. The lady approached the cliff and took a step forward. In fact, it was not suicide, but a deliberate maneuver to inflict more damage on the monsters. The girl flew up and wanted to pierce the palm of a huge black monster with a spear, but she failed to do this. The monster waved his powerful hand, and the Zhang girl flew down. Captain Zhang was already ready to die, but suddenly the main character flew up to her and grabbed her on the fly. He left the exhausted girl to rest and said that she had only made one mistake. He was not going to die here. Xiao stepped aside, swung his sword, and instantly turned into that powerful monster. Having come to her senses, the girl saw that instead of Xiao Qiu there was some kind of terrible monster, and then she understood everything. With the help of his only weapon and fairly high skills, the main character managed to neutralize the huge monster and release liters of blood from it. The creature disappeared, and the winner stood in the form of a monster and proudly raised his bloody sword. Ordinary soldiers could not believe that someone could so easily kill this huge black monster. The commander-in-chief, who already wanted to use a nuclear bomb, were shocked by what they saw. The chairman said that this is also the most humanoid monster seen in Dehi City, and this time it has definitely transformed from a human. The chairman suggested sending this monster for research, but suddenly they reported on the radio that nuclear warheads had been launched towards this monster. Everything around began to glow red, and the commander-in-chief and the representative realized that they had committed something stupid. The young fighters desperately looked at the warheads and realized that they were just bait for the monsters that the state took advantage of. The chairman put a smile on his face and said into the void that the Federation and he personally would never forget the success of those fighters. A huge purple eye appeared in front of the warheads, which was clearly some kind of monster. The chairman clutched the glass glasses in his hand and was horrified by what he saw. The man reported that a demonic god, which the main character had previously reported, had appeared on the battlefield. Previously, humanity compared the monster to shrimp and a net, since small monsters like shrimp can fall to the ground through a net. Elemental-level monsters are comparable to small fish that calmly swim through the net, and the demonic god in this background is a huge shark that does not have the chance to swim through the net. Previously, only Musk was confident that the confrontation between people and monsters could be resolved by killing the demonic god, as others were thinking about a compromise at that time. The nuclear heads that flew towards Musk were destroyed by the power of the demon god. The chairman, who was hoping that the demon god would immediately die from the nuclear bomb, opened his mouth and cold sweat began to flow from his face. The commander-in-chief understood that fighting the demonic god was beyond their strength. The chairman wanted to immediately return to Star City to personally report that the situation at the front was out of control. However, the commander-in-chief realized that the chairman of the Federation simply wanted to flee the dangerous area and leave the soldiers alone with the monsters. The commander shouted after the departing chairman that he too was obliged to return to the City of Stars, since he knew the whole situation on the battlefield better than anyone. Xiao continued to fight with huge creatures. But at some point, as he fell, he noticed the gaze of the demonic god. The main character destroyed half of the mask so that an old acquaintance could see his real face. And indeed, the huge eye of the demonic god noticed the hero and remembered how he killed him in a past life. Captain Zhang didn't understand why the demon god was looking at an ordinary thin guy. It soon dawned on the girl that the only person who could be treated this way was Musk. For herself, the girl has already concluded that this is really Mask, since that demonic god is scared of his face. The demonic god spun in the air and began to disappear from sight. His subordinate huge monsters turned into statues and soon crumbled into small stones. The creatures turned in the opposite direction and retreated from the secret area. The soldiers were glad that they survived and hugged each other. Musk himself realized that this was the end of all the showdowns with the monsters, and he closed his eyes with relief. As soon as Musk entered the void in his past life, the demonic god immediately hid, and never even met him face to face. But once everyone around knew that Musk had given up his identity as a person, the demon god finally plucked up courage and prepared an attack. The main character would never have thought that this god would be scared to such an extent that he would clench his tail and run away just after seeing Mask. If the demonic god were to analyze his powers, then with his 13th rank, he would be able to crush him like an ant. This completes Musk's personal mission, making him a true god in the eyes of all people. Zhao still couldn't enjoy the free energy of his body, but suddenly something interrupted him. Looking around, the main character saw the commanders-in-chief of the camps and the chairman of the Federation, behind whom stood an army of armed soldiers. The captain came to Mask's defense and told the commander that this was her comrade, and he was not a monster. The chairman said that a monster always remains a monster. And besides, he had been hiding for a long time, and now must bear full responsibility for the influx of monsters. The commander confirmed the words of the chairman of the Federation, and added that the appearance of Mask causes monsters of natural disaster. The girl could not believe it, and wanted to open the eyes of those present to all the competent actions of the Mask and the salvation of humanity from all monsters. The girl tried to explain that Xiao Chu fought against monsters, helping people, and although, according to the judge, he had to take the side of all creatures. The commander concluded that both Captain Zhang and Xiao Chu were to blame for the influx of monsters, and ordered his subordinates to arrest both of them. The armed fighters approached the main characters, and Xiao at the same moment, with one slight movement of his hand, threw them into the sky. The commander-in-chief put the brass knuckles on his hand and was glad that Musk showed his true colors. The commander rushed at Musk, and hoped that he had no strength left after a difficult battle. Musk, without hesitation, grabbed the chairman and pierced him through with his modest weapon. When the chairman was already dead, the commander told the soldiers to quickly arrest this crazy man, but they were against it. The man fell silent abruptly as Mask's energy sword appeared above him, which was about to deal him a fatal blow. Captain Zhang looked at the killing of people from the side and could not contain her emotions. The blind commander-in-chief arrived at the scene of the tragedy and expressed his joy at Musk's return. The man knelt down and promised the main character that, upon returning to the city, everything that should belong to him would be returned to him, and the military detachments would swear allegiance to him. After returning from the secret areas, a public meeting was held to sum up the results of the battle, in which 6 rank 7 demons, 25 8th ranks, and 12 9th ranks were destroyed. The faces of Team Zhang and Xiao Chu appeared on the big screen, and the speaker announced that the memory of their actions would live forever. The man also conveyed to the public that in this battle, a group of people emerged that led the front line to great losses. The speaker flashed photos of Musk and told the people that such traitors killed many brothers for their own lives. People could not believe what they saw, and they were scared that such traitors were hiding among ordinary people. One of the men came on stage and created a rally about betrayal in the army. The television reporters who were watching what happened took their eyes off the stage and began filming the roof of the large house. Standing on the roof of the building was an ordinary Xiao Chu, holding his humble weapon. A crowd of people shouted that these were bloodthirsty bridges, and everyone began to run in different directions. The army of fighters grabbed their weapons and ran towards Xiao Chu. The main character continued to stand in place, and with only a slight wave of his hand repelled the attacking soldiers. The soldiers wanted to call for help, but it was too late, as the main character's power began to come out and something terrible could happen. Xiao Chu walked up to the stage, and all the people made way for him without a word. The male speaker saw Xiao Chu, whom he had previously fought side by side with, and now accused of ridiculous crimes. The man tried to calm himself down by elevating himself to a higher level than the real Musk. The speaker wanted to fight Musk, and before doing so, he introduced himself to a newly developed composition. The young man did not want to participate in the battle with this vile man, but he simply wanted to capture the attention of the public. He was quite brief, and opening his mouth informed everyone present that he was the real Musk. The entire audience did not understand what was really going on, and suddenly Musk noticed Captain Zhang among them. The girl had previously guessed that this was Musk, but she did not believe it until recently. The hero told the people that only he can give them hope for a bright life, and all their possible stupidity will only lead them to death. Xiao Chu explained to the people that their government is trying to drive fear into them, which rejects all of Musk's services to the state. The man who drank the amplifier fell to his knees and bowed his head in death. Unafraid of his statement, Musk announced to everyone that from that day on, this world belongs only to him. All the puzzles about the powerful force and stories of the young man came together in Captain Zhang's head. The people raised their hands in the air and began shouting for Musk to rule this world forever.